up. Maybe you could do some quotes.
Okay. So I took my family to the pumpkin patch 2 days ago. I had the day off of work unexpectedly, and there was this thing called the corn box, and so it's just like a big room full of corn, like 6 inches of corn. And you just said I look like Daniel Day-Lewis from There Will Be Blood. So my daughter was lying on it. I got over and I started burying her in the corn, and I started talking like Daniel Day-Lewis. I'm going to bury you, Eli.
Nice.
I don't
like you that.
Probably wasn't a good thing to be seen in public like that, but it's what it is.
I mean, it's called Montessori parenting. It means that the
right
whatever wacky stuff that they want. You just use your imagination, have fun with it. I think that's right.
Yeah. What's the etymology of Montessori? Is that Canadian? Because Monty's.
It's probably like a French researcher.
Well, and
Sorry. Yeah, hey, yeah.
Montessori.
Montessori.
What a Canadian says when they bump into you on accident.
Oh, like a Mountie.
Yeah.
No, but sorry too.
Right. So, but you're saying sorry to the police.
Right. No, you're saying sorry to the. It's when you say sorry to a Mountie.
That's what I'm saying. They're the cops, right? But they're like horse cops.
Yeah. Horse cops instead of cop pigs, like we got pig cops.
Yeah. Horse cops with a P for the audience at home.
Want to make sure.
Horse cops. Want to make sure.
What could they have been? How could there have been confusion with that?
They could have thought that I was saying
crops. You don't grow horses.
Right. Yeah, horses don't come from
cots, like a bed, like a cot, any number of things.
It's true. Clog.
Yeah.
So like you making wooden shoes out of horse hooves, which wouldn't be wood, so that'd be something.
We're going Dutch.
Making wooden shoes out of horse penises.
Well, welcome to the show, everybody. Today we have with us. You guys just want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah. I just looked at your thumbnail, and I saw that it's the old bait and switch because the thumbnail for your video is me and Colin, but it's me and. I'll let him introduce himself.
My name's Austin. I'll just go with that for now. I'm friends with Justin and Colin, grew up together with them, and we kind of went down that orthodoxy path together a couple years ago. And then we make dumb jokes kind of thing. So, and try to talk about intellectual things, but we'll see how that goes. So
those are the main two things: is we do jokes and we talk serious. It's always like a light switch. We're either in schizo mode and we're going deep into the speculative theological grounds, stuff that our priests would probably be shaking their head at. And it's not things that I'm not trying to be heretical or blasphemous or anything. It's always with respect. But the things that come out of my mouth, I'm like, that's probably not true, but I can't stop my brain from considering what if it is, that type of stuff.
Well, I've had some circles where like I'll say a joke and like my other Orthodox friends laugh, but like it seems like the online sphere, I'll like make a joke like in the Dire Chord. That's why I haven't been on Dire Chord in like 2 years. I made a joke and somebody's like, "The blasphemy, Deus Vult," and I was like, I'm joking. I'm out of here, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that if any of us met those people in real life, we'd immediately like identify them. It's like, you're the guy on Twitter who can't relax for half a second.
Okay, so you round the corner, you're on your phone, you look up, you see that guy. What does he look like?
Randall from Recess.
Oh, yeah.
My mind went to Randall from Monsters Inc., but it's just a purple lizard.
That's wild that we got two different Randalls in our mind's eye.
Right. It's like if you said, close your eyes, think of a green chair. Are we all thinking of the same green chair? What's your green chair look like?
Mine was purple, but it was like a snake guy that can do like chameleon camouflaging techniques.
So
it's a green chair? What?
Yeah, but it's purple.
Try it again.
Okay, yeah, okay, close your eyes. Think of a green chair.
He's colorblind slightly, so that might.
He's got 6 arms, and he's always I'm gonna get you, Mike Wazowski.
Austin, what about you?
Grandma's chair.
Can you all hear us? Because I can hear everybody.
You know those like 70s living rooms. Well, I don't even know what year, probably 60s, 70s. Grandparents where they got wood panels everywhere, but there's like some olive green, maybe olive green, more like kind of pukish green. That's like the old Volkswagens, but they look very, very soft and plush. One of those. But
okay, I was thinking of a child's outdoor chair that's got like the black metal frame and then like a plastic green, like a hard plastic green. That was in my mind. But same, we all had the same referent, different imaginations, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Mine was,
and with that, I think that's just a perfect way to segue about how do you guys feel about America? Close your eyes, think of America. All right. Did you think of Obama? Did you think of apple pie? Oh no! Look, abomination! Get him out of here. Okay, America. What comes to mind? If I say America, I'm going to throw words out, and you say the first word that comes to mind. America.
Pie.
Snakes.
All right, snakes.
Pie.
Utah.
Mormons.
The constitutional republic.
Star Wars.
Failed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Montgomery.
Alabama.
You got to do it. You got to do it.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought we were taking turns or something.
I mean, no. You guys just both shout them out.
First wins. Good.
All right.
Okay, manifest destiny.
Manifesto, Communist Manifesto.
That's exactly what I was
Okay. The South.
Ooh, chicken.
Redneck.
Lincoln
Park.
Memorial Park. Oh,
okay.
I like
9/11.
Starts with one.
Inside Job.
All right, where are we going with this, Mr. Westford?
Well, that's. I mean, I thought that we had 2 hours to. I thought that'd be pretty fun. I don't know. I thought you guys were.
How long
having a good time?
Do we have a run time on loose change that we can just put up?
Yeah.
Yeah, could we run loose change as like a center thing, like the screen in the middle, and then we're kind of flanking it and surrounding it. But the other rule is we're not allowed to talk. We're only allowed to like nod in agreement. You know, I asked my dad today, point blank, I went over to my parents' house to do some stuff that I had to take care of, and my dad came in the room, and within like 30 seconds, I was like, "So, have you come around yet on the like 9/11 conspiracy?" Because he's pretty committed, not to necessarily the official narrative and only the official narrative. He will concede that there may be things that the United States government is keeping secret for strategic reasons for national security, but he will not, and he will maybe concede that people who are involved with or somehow adjacent to American interests may have had some foreknowledge, but not a person acting, with a no one with an official capacity to act on behalf of the U.S. government. So I thought that was an impressive level of. To me, it's unfathomable to not think that there was some monkey business going on involving elements of our own government. But my dad's pretty hard to sell.
So that's part of what I thought we could talk about today is, so I don't know if you guys have a complicated view with America and being an American. Like with me, it was, I grew up in a conservative Protestant home. Heard like Sean Hannity and all those guys in the car all the time with my dad. And then in middle school, I got really heavy into punk and metal and all those kind of things. And I was really into reading a lot of those like punk rockers, the books they were putting out. And I was like a self-identified anarchist by the time I was like 14. And so I kind of had like a lot of like the neocon stuff in my head. I went to like Tea Party rallies with my dad, but I was pretty anti. Like by 14, I was like, I'm not gonna salute to the flag. That's an idol. That's I only would bow down to God. I won't bow down to man. And this land, this flag doesn't give me freedom. Christ does. All those are kind of my talking points. But then, by 2018 or so, I had kind of swung back over to a lot closer to how I grew up with my dad's conservatism stuff. And then the election year of 2020 is what like totally killed it for me. Seeing all the election fortification, totally killing my belief in the system. And at the same time, I was becoming Orthodox. I was had just become an Inquirer. I think by the time Joe Biden was in office, something like that. And then, I was just all about monarchy, and I was just like, this whole system sucks. I'm totally disenfranchised by it. Our vote doesn't matter at the highest level. Like, you can clearly see that this is just a rigged system. And then I started reading all the Orthodox views in the Enlightenment and classical liberalism and voting and all these different things. And a bunch of stuff came into question for me. Like, I don't even believe in rights now. Stuff like that. That's like just baked into the Constitution. So I don't know what. Right now, I'm at this place from trying to. I listen to King Pilled. Really, is like that and it being an election year, to seeing what's going on has made me. It's kind of like the sun has come up, and like I'm the black pill, drunken haze is starting to lift, and I'm like, well, I live here. I'm an American. I can't change that about me. I could like move someplace else and naturalize, but this is where my family is. This is where I'm from. This is who I am. Can't just change that about me. And I want to make this place better. I want to serve my community and serve my parish and serve my homeland and all that. So there's this tension with that to me, because there's so much baggage with America. Like you just mentioned, like the 9/11 being an inside job and learning more and more about the deep state and all the different insidious things our country has done across the world, while seeing all the good stuff about it. And it's just a tension within me that I'm still sorting out.
Yeah, a lot of parallels.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know. I'll let Austin speak his piece as well, but I'm just like same. Well, everything you just said, I'm like, yeah, same. I probably read a lot less than you. I don't know. People are like, well, if it weren't for Immanuel Kant, we would not have gone down a trajectory of the self-referential.
the noumena.
Right. All that stuff's cool. I shouldn't do that voice because I'm the failure for not having done at least a cursory, like, crash course in philosophy.
I just finished the Iliad. I feel like last time we talked, you're like, I've never read the Iliad. I just finished that.
Oh yeah, I've never read the Iliad or the Odyssey, and people are like, whoa, I thought you had to. Everyone keeps saying the same thing to me. I
didn't have to in high school. I didn't have to.
Never came up. I also never have taken a chemistry course. I don't know if I said that last time. Not one. Not even one day in a chemistry class. And people are like,
actually, I think I'm with you on that. I don't think I have either.
How did I go through high school?
We had like physics or chemistry, right? Pretty much we had to take one of the two. I did physics instead, but yeah.
Yeah. And ironically, I more believe in physics when it comes to applied sciences than I believe in chemistry in the first place. Like, I think chemistry is a reality, but
we're not talking about alchemy, right? Like chemistry.
We are, and it's going to go off on a tangent, which we should hit, which we should swing back to. Sure. But like I got this guy that I work with named Tamor, who was telling me, like, he's got a thick British accent, and he not that thick. I don't know. I should be careful because he might watch this, and I'm not making fun at all. But he has a British accent, but he has like India heritage, and he always telling me interesting stuff. And he was like, they can fix your cavities by like setting a certain frequency like on your teeth or whatever. And I'm like,
heard things like that.
I believe this. You don't have to sell me on it. I believe it because I believe physics more than I believe pharmaceutical. Like, I know that the dental world, big dentist out there, big tooth.
Big dentist.
Big tooth. Big snaggletooth out there.
Big snaggletooth wants you to believe that you have to go and get your teeth cleaned and get fillings and root canals.
And fluoride.
But all along you just had to like play a certain number of gigahertz at your tooth and it self heals or whatever. I don't know if that's true. Have you gotten into oil pulling? Pulling? Yeah, you like swish castor oil or coconut oil or something for like 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Anyway, this is all far afield from what I was about to say, but I was going to say same dude where despite me being less well read than you, it was me literally holding a sign out in front of our road during the Clinton George W. Bush election of like 1996.
I was 1 year old.
Yeah. So I was 4 or 5 at that point, and I was holding a sign for cars driving by to vote for George W. Bush because my
Yep.
parents were Republicans, and Republicans were good and godly, and the Democrats were real son of a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And
You're
that's-
trying to harm our family and destroy America.
Yes, and then 5 years later, that was borne out by the fact that the Democrats allowed for the Hajis to fly planes into 2 of our favorite buildings, and that's
Right.
how come George W.
Yeah, the
Bush
Hodge
did.
twins went right into the one twin per plane, one tower between them.
Did like the lesser known younger brother or something fly it into the Pentagon or
yeah.
somebody?
Yeah, they don't talk about him. Those guys,
Yeah,
I don't know
Hodge
if you guys,
triplets.
they're pretty degenerate. I don't know if you've heard some of the things they've said, but
Oh, the
Yeah.
Hodge twins? Yeah.
oh
I've
yeah, I've
heard-
heard some
yeah.
weird. I've heard some weird stuff from them.
I've been listening to them for like 10 years, dude, and they're always talking about the kind of gross things, but
Yeah.
they also taught me how to make gains. So what can I say?
Well,
Give and take, right?
yeah.
I
I was thinking about like
yeah.
there's so many things that like you get a good thing, but you like it comes with a bad thing. Like okay, I like that. It seems to me like racism isn't as much of a thing now, but like why is everything so gay? Like when we desegregate, does everything have to be gay? Why does it happen? What is that? Why is it? Can we have desegregation without the gay? That's my question. I feel like you could, but that's what we got.
It just brings everyone together so well. I think they
Mm.
just roll with it,
Right.
But all that to say, because I went on like 4 tangents, all that to say, I think I started from being a Republican good, proud Republican. And
Yeah,
some
me
people
too.
never come out of that, and it's sad and cringe. And they'll be 30 years old and they just haven't seen past it. Not trying to be elitist or anything, but you should grow out of.
Maybe they'll go like, "Oh, he's a rhino." That's like as far as they get.
That's a very hot,
right. They've
hot
drawn
word
the lines
used
between.
lately.
Yeah. And then at some point, I kind of swung full-fledged into just thinking that everyone was a foot soldier of the Baphomet. And then now, only in the last like year or two, it's become more sensible and just be like, well, it is. I don't know what better way to say this, but it's the natural world. It's what you'd expect. Our experience, like I'm talking to 2 human beings with normal incentive structures in their life. They have to eat, sleep, have family, friends, want success, but have certain principles or whatever. And instead we look at anyone who's like in the public eye. And by we, I mean people who were subject to the like mental disease that I had, where once you hit a certain threshold, you're basically an NPC. You're basically like a WWE wrestler. It's always a character. They're total liars all the time, and they're all
in on it. It's all political
working in
theater.
concert. Yeah, and then now I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I don't know. I think 99 times out of 100, it's not that way. Like,
Well, I feel like you're also giving because I've thought that too. Like, especially like with warp speed and all that. I was like, I don't know, kind of doesn't seem like what a good guy would do. And but saying that they're masterminds and everything's in lockstep and it's all political theater there and everything's planned out. It's like you probably. I think it was JD Vance that said like don't make them out to be more powerful than they are. Don't make yourself feel unempowered, disempowered because you think that they are all knowing.
yeah. And so now that's where I'm at, where I know that there are powerful interests that operate covertly, and there really are such things as the Illuminati and Skull and Bones and Club of Rome and things that are
Keep
declassified.
going. Name as many as you can of the secrets.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay, when you think of Skull and Bones, what do you think of?
John Kerry, George Bush, and public anyone
Mastectomy?
mass psychosis.
What about
Master.
Joshua Jackson and Paul Walker? Do you remember anything that has to do with that?
Oh, yeah.
Paul Walker's the guy that got all burned up, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think I think he hit a tree or something
got
like that.
smashed
But,
up pretty
the
good.
classic, what was it, 2002 or something? The
Bones.
Skulls, the
Oh,
movie.
the bones. I said the bones.
I mean, that was
Bones
probably
are
the
close.
writing title, yeah. But that was a classic. So
Yeah, Austin and I watched The Skulls. If you haven't seen it, it's
I have
about
not.
high level, like esoteric kind of.
it's basically Skull and Bone Society, but with it's called the Skulls and stuff like that. But it's with like initiates and stuff like that that go into it. But.
Yeah, it's if it weren't for Austin, I would have never seen it. But there's this classic story. I'll bring my dad back into it. He loves this one. It's like the funniest thing that Austin's ever done in the eyes of my parents. We watched this when we were in college, and we're like, oh, we'll pop it on. It seems fun. And then like, maybe a third of the way through the movie, you realize like this is really compelling and good and tense and like high stakes and scandalous and mysterious and all these other great adjectives, things that will make you watch a movie and stop talking and everyone respect what's happening and just sit there and watch in silence. And it all comes to a head at the end. And there's like this difficult decision where someone has to choose what's right over their own family who was like deep in these dark things. And there was some like murder and some cover-ups and stuff like that. And I'm not going to spoil anything if anyone wants to go watch it, but a young man finally stands up for what's right and fires a shot off and has to stop somebody from, I don't want to get too specific, but it's very dramatic and there's something that happens at the end and there's guns involved and then it's like somber and it's like this big surprise ending. And it's like
I can't watch now. I know that something happens at the end. You've ruined it for me.
Yeah, something happens.
It's very heavy and it's very serious and like shocking at the end. And then it kind of like resolves and you see like a sad look and then it goes to black and the credits start going up. And in that room, we haven't spoken a word in more than an hour and the credits start going up and Austin goes, "It's been." But like as if that's the music that they put over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah,
had to lighten the mood somehow after all that stuff that happened.
Break the tension.
Yeah, he broke the tension and brought us all back to reality.
Yeah. Well, it's a good movie if you want to see it. It does have like a bunch of symbolism, like their initiation is in like waking up in the coffins and stuff like that after getting, dragged out of bed at night and stuff like that. But like, it's also got a lot of corniness to it too, as well. But overall, it's worth checking out. But
people talk about like Eyes Wide Shut. I haven't seen that yet, but people talk about that with like initiation and cult stuff as well.
That one's got a lot of it. Yeah. The Kubricks, any of the Kubrick stuff will have a lot.
Yeah.
That one.
The fact that you can't watch Eyes Wide Shut without watching Orgy.
Yeah, that's why I haven't watched it.
Right,
you might be able to like.
They cut it down way low, apparently, from what the original script was, like all the different stuff in it. But he died before it came out. Well,
I'm totally fine with people like making home edits to like make movies better or cleaner.
But the interesting part is the parts that are the most extreme or explicit are what they're showing. It's like ritualistic, let's put it that way, what they're kind of showing. So like a lot of it was kind of revealed in those types of scenes, which is uncomfortable to watch, but it's in there. It's worth checking out at some point, or at least finding somebody like Jay Dyer or like Isaac Weishaupt or somebody who breaks it down at least. That way you can like know what's in it and all that. But
yeah,
I've read SOK or Kylowood.
Yeah.
Oh, I got them back. I got signed copies behind
1 and 2.
Oh.
Yeah, a third one's coming out.
That's what I hear.
Nice. You know what? Let me tell a story on behalf of Colin. It's really funny because he went to see a panel with Jay and like 2 other people in Tennessee at some point, like a couple years ago. And then he went and Jamie Hanshaw was sitting at the table and he was like, "Oh, I saw her speak," or whatever, and came up and wanted to see what she had at her table. And she writes or maybe hasn't in a while, I don't know, but she had kind of a premium quality, thick, like magazine type of book called Weird Stuff, I think. And it's really good. Like you can flip through it and just learn very high level, but also like with good detail to get you like a thread to pull on for the occult origins of Hollywood and stuff and MK Ultra, like princess programming and all that. So he sees them and is like, "Oh, I know about this." And then he's like, Jamie Hanshaw. And then all of a sudden connected in his head. And he's like, "Did you used to date Freeman Fly?" Because Colin grew up listening to Freeman. I don't know if you guys know much about him, but he was one of those people that like accurately predicted 9/11 and a bunch of other stuff.
He's in the conspiracy world of stuff.
Yeah, but he's definitely on the more esoteric. I don't want to misrepresent him, but I think he's probably more
Gematria kind of stuff.
He's very
like
esoteric.
the New Age,
Yeah.
the Gnostic angle. I don't think he's a Christian, but it's ironic because Colin was like knew that, but had no idea that she ended up dating and marrying Jay. But there they are sitting at two different tables, and he's like, "Aren't you dating Freeman Fly?" She's like, "No, I'm married to Jay." And Colin's like, "Whoa!" His whole world like collapsed in his head there, or whatever.
Yeah, because she used to be involved in like talking about or like doing occult type stuff before, like years before Jay. So that makes sense.
I think he's totally genuine. Oh, Jay or Freeman?
No, Jamie. She was involved with that stuff before she converted to Orthodoxy, and then obviously with Jay, but years ago that she used to write and do stuff about that.
Yeah, so she's kind of like disavowed certain perspectives, even though the information is still accurate, but saying that Orthodoxy is the lens through which to stay on the path and to be right and get the right perspective. But such is life with all these things. It's always the mysteries that are revealed, but they're either worthless mysteries or they're a good amount of truth mixed with lies, or it's both, And I think that that's how people get in trouble, is they see so much wonder working, whether literally or just like in terms of unlocking understanding of the universe and metaphysics and stuff like that, that they go, "Oh, I must be onto something." They don't realize is that, the fallen ones have a certain amount of latitude to offer you understanding and power and, ostensibly positive outcomes. So
well said.
Anyway.
Yes. Hey. Everyone one-handed clap for everybody in the chat, please, for Jess.
Yeah, what's the chat saying, man?
Something about Paul Washer got murdered. I don't quite know. R.I.P. for Paul Washer, everybody. It's sad.
Yeah. Is Paul Washer the one that Jay always makes fun of when he's like,
"Yeah, dear friends,
yeah,
I cried 12 hours today, friends, for your salvation." Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, he's the one that Jay was
he's
like,
a very big evangelical type, like Protestant.
"Someone escort this man from the premises. You're not coming to me with the Spirit of Christ."
Did you guys hear Alex Jones on Tucker recently?
Not recently, no.
So he had a really good long opening about like the globalists and all these different people with their agendas, and then his rallying cry was, "We have to go back to 1776." And I was like, "Oh, like I agree. Like we should like fight and make things better and like do everything we can." But like this is the tension for me, like going back to the Enlightenment philosophy stuff, back to the classical liberalism that got us here in the first place. I don't like what I think. The answer I'm at right now is I think that we need to move forward as a country, and we need to work within the system to whatever we can, work local. Obviously, as an Orthodox Christian, I think monarchy is like the tip top of all of the forms of government we could have, but we're pretty far away from that. And to have an Orthodox government, you'd have to have an Orthodox populace. So evangelism would be the first part of that. But also, I don't want my children to be taken away and sterilized by the state. So I need to be doing something here in my state, in my country, fighting off the demons. But I just don't think going back to 1776 is that. Like maybe that would, plug put my finger in the dam for a little bit. But I think it would just burst, because I think that liberalism just begat this liberalism. Like I think the America we see is the America that happened because of what the founding fathers set up, and I don't think that it would have gone much differently. This is where we're at.
Well, what's cool is this is such a big theme that I think collectively it's no surprise that the conversation broadly, and I don't keep my finger on the pulse of right-wing internet culture as much as I would like to, but what I'm noticing is a theme that people are all starting to think and talk the same way, which is that glimmer of hope, that massive white pill. You're so close to the white pill that you can't even see it, which is the idea of, hey, I mean, it's up to us to make that reality, to create culture, to be the change you want to see in the world. Also, I would be remiss to not say that I've promised the chat that we will in fact acknowledge their existence at some point here shortly.
Okay, we'll go one by one, the whole thing.
From the top gun from the top. But yeah, I think just to finish that point, what you mentioned king pilled earlier, Matt always saying no black pilling. That's the number one rule.
That's his banner.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And it's being mirrored elsewhere. The 2-Bit podcast episode that's been going around.
Stormy Waters.
Yeah, the Stormy Waters.
Yeah, that was really good.
Everyone loved it, dude. And for good reason. Austin, if you haven't listened to that yet, it's got a lot. You learn a lot about like mega world finances and little bit of geopolitics.
What was it called again? What'd you say?
2-Bit podcast with Jason and Stormy Waters. Yeah.
No, I've heard of Stormy Waters.
Well, I'll send you the link. It's worth it. You know, Colin said listen to it on 1.5x. It kind of hits the doldrums at some point, like after the first 20 minutes. If you're not into the subject matter, but stick with it. But the first like 20 minutes is fire, and then the last like I don't know how long the thing is. Anyway, a lot of that was saying what Wes just said, which was like these people don't give them credit for just being these robotic, monolithic power structures that are only playing. Like I still fall into that when I read like Elon Musk tweeting. I'm like, yeah, right, dude.
Well, a lot of it is not direct influence, kind of like so think about it. Like I mean, our government too is run the same way. It's really influenced by oligarch style, where it's the money that runs everything. I mean, really, if you look at changing society, is so much harder in this day and age because the people themselves, the majority of them are, and I'll say it charitably, useful idiots in the fact that they could have the best intentions, but they police everything. It seems like when it comes to societal things, whether, you know, what you can and can't talk about. I mean, really, they've done such a good job, the powers that be, of propaganda and just kind of pushing certain agendas that once it's out there and ingrained in the society, it's really hard you don't even have to fight the people at the top. You're dealing with people who are good intentioned, but they just don't know any better type of thing. Like the misconceptions, like you're talking about with 1776, they don't really question it much farther about what all the implications that leads to, all the different, like actually justifying their belief system. They just kind of take it at face value and it sounds good.
Right. Yeah, they were against the bad guys. You know, they fought for freedom. You know, they had traditional values.
Right, and it's not one thing or the other. People think too much in a black and white, you know, binary dichotomy style of thinking. A very Hegelian mindset.
Yes.
Dialect.
The noumena.
Never read a word of Hegel, but I know enough from people spewing it on.
Was he a bagel? Was Hegel a bagel?
He was a bagel.
Most of it.
Oh, and also, dude, I'm so ADHD with all this, but Austin sent me a clip of Made by Jim Bob doing a very thick Jewish accent.
Yeah, it was yesterday's stream where he was reviewing atheists, whatever the name is, atheist something, reviewing Jay Dyer, but he did the videos before that where he kind of warms up the audience. It's a perfect 2-minute little clip of the best impression I've seen in a while, but yeah.
He's really good at some impressions. Terrible at accents, good at impressions.
Yeah. His Jordan Peterson is top notch.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson and the Ben Shapiro are his best ones. He's gotten way better at Tucker Carlson.
Yeah,
he's gotten very much better at Tucker Carlson. Actually,
he does the face well whenever he's listening to something. He's like, you know, the open mouth all kind of that Tucker does while he's listening. That makes you think, does he think I'm an idiot or is he in agreement with what
did he take a shit in his pants?
Yeah, one of those. Yeah, he's very good at that part too. So
Hegel was prot. Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped into the chat prematurely. I couldn't help it. I saw you highlighted Colin. Colin would prefer to be on the chat than on the stream.
Well, it's up to him. I can't make him do nothing, dude.
I'm just kidding. He's got obligations, a little bit, but he might join. Who's to say? So I'm really sorry for keep splintering off into these different tangents.
This has been the longest explanation.
This is why we keep you around.
Yeah, I mean, I think it started with you explaining your political path, and it's been 30 minutes of it. But
Yeah,
that's good.
so we went from holding a sign up when you're 5 to that movie about bones to Tucker Carlson and Jim Bob.
Hegelian dialectic.
Hegel bagels. Here we are.
Okay.
You know who would be great on this stream? Do you follow Reader Paul? Paul
Yes.
Trinka?
Yeah.
He's got the same trajectory as we're talking about, where starting like probably starry-eyed, generally conservative or lean libertarian, and then get super disillusioned and then black-pilled and like have this bitter edge against the establishment or anything institutionalized, and then eventually find that all his gripe with the world is a distraction against his own fallenness, and we're all influenced by the world of darkness until we are able to receive God's grace in such a way as it, illumines and begins to cleanse our heart, or replace our heart of stone with a heart of flesh. And then you got the long, arduous path and battle and struggle and all that. And by the grace of God, now he's got, about 47 children, and he is a reader in the Orthodox Church. And I think that he's an admirable and pious man. But all of his story about like how he viewed the world was always tied up in, the darkness of politics and stuff. And
right.
I don't know if this was his story or not, but Austin and I definitely share one specific node on the timeline that I think hits a lot of people, blindsides them, which is Zeitgeist, the Zeitgeist documentary, circa 2007. It's just like mostly nonsense, mostly lies.
Did you know that Horus was born to a virgin and rose like the sun?
Well, it's broken into 3 parts, kind of like it'll do the religion
9/11.
part, but the 9/11 and the money, like the conspiracy of it's by basically the book $1 Trillion Conspiracy by Jim Marrs is kind of what he was talking about on that. But it's all about how the political powers that be are actually controlled by private institutions stuff. So, I mean, I would say a lot of it actually has truth in it, but then his
syncretism stuff.
Yeah, his kind of what his ultimate, this must be what's going on answer to it was way off. And then he took every type of Reddit-based argument for Jesus is just a copy of 18,000 other religions, older type things. It's very surface level stuff, but it was influential, at least in having us start asking questions when it came to not just taking the mainline narrative. But
sounds like he needs to go read St. Justin Martyr.
Yeah.
What did he say about this?
He talks about it's because like that view is like, oh, there's all these similarities between these different religions with Christianity, with virgin births, with dying on a tree, resurrecting, all these things. So that means they're all really the same, and there's this perennial idea they're all different paths to God, just like the Pope says. Yeah. But contrary to the Pope, St. Justin Martyr says that when you see those different mythologies that have different like shadows and types of Christ, it's because the demons were listening to all the prophecies happening when they're occurring in the Old Testament, and then going out and disseminating those things in different shadowy types to confuse people. And he's going like one by one of how Hercules and all these different gods and mythology are taken from specific scriptures. And then, but they didn't have the full picture of, because they didn't know about the incarnation when it was coming. So they had these certain things wrong with it. And I think it might be, it's either the Apology or the Dialogue with Trypho, the Jew, that he talks about that.
Because that's the same, the same debate where he argues the Trinity from the Old Testament quite a bit.
That must be the Trypho, the Jew, because he goes through, he goes through all the theophanies in the Old Testament. Again, hey, Roman Catholics, these really early saints talk about the Old Testament has the Trinity in it, has Christ in it. So their natural theology.
Catholics don't think
Catholics are contradictory. Yeah. Some will say that it's natural theology. Others will espouse the Orthodox.
Well, I believe, like I'm not an expert, but I believe like their official dogmatic position is that you can't disagree with natural theology, which states that the Old Testament is Unitarian. It doesn't have the Trinity, and it's a generic monotheistic God. So then the Jews, the Muslims, and the Christians all believe in the same generic God, and we just have our different particularities that we disagree with, and we're all really worshiping in different ways this generic monotheistic Old Testament God.
Yeah, and
When the saints of the first and second century say, no, that was Jesus.
Yeah.
Get bent,
You know
Pope.
what I love? I'm looking over here at the chat, and Christ is King says, "Man, Austin, you are surprising me. You pulling up some deep knowledge." And that's when it finally occurred to me that I'm the resident retard. Three of us on here.
Yeah, there's always
cracks
one
and
in a
jokes.
there's always one in a room. So if you're
Right,
looking
right.
around,
If you
It's
don't
not
know
him.
which
It's
one
not
it is,
me.
it's you.
You know,
That's
one
me,
out of three
not them.
people are retarded. So,
little known
but
fact.
we can, that's called being a foil. You're just a foil for us. So thank you.
Yeah, you need a straight man. You need the one teeing up these
Right,
conversations
right.
so that you guys. Can
Every
pull
straight
up.
man needs. I think you know. Fill in the blank.
A gay man, as it
Right.
were.
Right. I mean,
And yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
with
got a Nintendo Switch right there. I'm gaming.
there you go.
Don't worry
Who
about me.
gaming?
My wife was playing Zelda earlier. Actually,
My wife's playing the new Oregon Trail. Actually, I don't know how new it is, but it's on Switch.
did she get
Yeah.
dysentery?
She just opened the door as we're speaking to ask me if she should take the north or the south path when they're both like a mystery as to what's there. So she has
What time of year is it? Is winter
Ask-
coming?
Yeah, she has to ask me to divine the Oregon Trail. It's a very mysterious mistress. Let me show you the full extent of the fathers that I have in book form, and then you tell me how meager and measly and inadequate it is.
All right, sure. This is a weird flex, but
Yeah, it's probably going to be one paperback book that says like sayings from the church fathers.
The Fathers for Dummies. So I have the Apostolic Fathers as edited by J.B. Lightfoot at the recommendation of like
That's a
some
good one.
J. Dyer type, if not J. Dyer. And it's Clement of Rome and whoever Ignatius and whatever, like the early, right?
Yeah.
But it can't be everything that they ever wrote. So what is it? Who knows? I forget. But I got, I read. some
Nope,
of that
that's
stuff.
it. That's it. Just that much right there.
Okay. And then
they wanted you to be able to finish it like in a breezy afternoon. They knew that people were going to get busy.
if I weren't retarded, I would have finished this by now. But I've read some stuff, and it's been pretty enlightening about the mindsets and what the Apostolic Fathers. I don't know. There's a lot there. You see, you read them talk, and you go, "Uh-oh, this really is different." I feel like reading 10 pages of Ignatius or Clement would take a Protestant, knowing who they are, like in history, it should knock a confident Protestant on their heels and go, "Okay, I got to rethink this." Because even just the way that they are talking about things is
I mean, there's like
extremely incongruent with the modern ethos.
Right. There's like two main things I didn't know about the church fathers when I first started reading a few years ago. Is one, if you want to get a good grasp of like philosophy and like philosophical concepts, I had no idea how ingrained a lot of it is. Like, I think the first one, Maximus the Confessor, was really big on just how to perceive and kind of think about things a whole different way. And but the other part where Protestant mindset gets confused is the misrepresentation of words, where they'll see things like faith, repentance, and all that, but they'll have a totally different view of what that means, and that's where it adds a whole nother level of.
That's when you get the quote mind stuff of like, look, they're using the word faith, and I'm gonna like say it's like faith alone and all that.
Yeah, they tried to do that a lot with Irenaeus and against heresies, where they'll pull quote minds from it, and not knowing what he means by repentance is totally different than our modern conception. But I mean, that's basically like Gavin Ortland, everything he does from the Protestant side. If he tries to pull up a church father, it'll be random quotes here and there and different things. But yeah,
Colin nailed this one. The phrase we were looking for was word concept phallus.
Right. I think that's the classical term. I think that's usually that was right. That the word concept phallus, I think, it first appeared in Plato's cave, because that's the cave is a very feminine symbol. Right. Yeah, so it's like this, they synergize together. So
I mean, I used to argue terribly too. I was a phallus machine back in the day. I mean, I just every one of them I was guilty of. So
So you were pulling out
Right.
fallacies left and right, just even on your friends in conversation.
Yeah. It was a painful process, but I'm glad it happened in the end. So that's
Yeah.
good.
I mean, this guy.
Did you pick that up from like your father, or how deep does the phallus go?
Really, it started with my uncle early on, but then after that, it was okay.
He
After
was
that,
not a logical man. He was logically inconsistent, and his fallacies
Right,
were
right.
some of the most egregious. Things got
Right.
hairy quick when you're talking to this guy. Name was Harry too, incidentally. The other books that I have here, these are from a Catholic scholar that I guess compiled them and has little notes or whatever, but it's the best I could find at my local used bookstore. William A. Jurgens, and I think he does a faithful exposition, maybe not from an Orthodox point of view, but very little that I've seen in the notes here defy what I know of Orthodox dogmatic frameworks. It's mostly like no value added. This is what these fathers appear to say. But the problem,
I mean, I'm reading the Shaft set right now, like the big giant set. I'm on volume 2. I took a break because there's so much like of them talking about Homer. Like I read the Iliad. I'm in the middle of Odyssey right now because it like so much of it is them comparing different things and like going through like Aristotle and all these different philosophies. I'm like, I need to be a little bit more well read if unless I'm just going to glaze over parts of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
I was going to say the Protestant footnotes in that there's like the guy's translating notes, and then there's like an editor's notes, and sometimes they'll be like, I think that Saint Irenaeus is really saying this, and another like it'll be like appendix to this note. That's not what he's saying at all. You're dumb. I'm like, what? Yeah. Or it'll be like, I think that they're saying this, but we don't. It's just kind of nonsense. All the footnotes and stuff. Very rarely does it. I stopped reading them. It doesn't seem like to add anything.
Probably not. Yeah, I would. Yeah.
I saw a good tweet. It was a picture of. It was like the quote was something about like the simplicity of the gospel and how the, no creed but Jesus or something like that, and then a picture of Wayne Grudem, whatever book, Systematic Theology, and it's 1,200 pages or whatever, and it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, so and I don't know how. I'm not trying to have this tone when I talk. I don't think it's endearing or helpful, but I got to stop talking as if I'm looking down on the Protestant mindset because it's all I knew for most of my entire life until like 2 years ago. Started to kind of get some holes poked in that or whatever. However, objectively, there's only so far you can get on ignorance once someone says like, "Hey, look at this 1,200-page hardback book and tell me that things are simple and straightforward." And also, why should I listen to Wayne Grudem? Why should I disregard why should I disregard the man who, as a boy, sat on Jesus's knee as he said, suffer the little children to come unto me? I should ignore him, and I should listen to a guy named Wayne Grudem. He sounds like the freaking villain in a Die Hard movie. Okay, I don't know who that is, where he came from,
Gruber.
Hans Gruber.
And yet, I'm supposed to read this, and if I don't, I'm just supposed to trust that Pastor Jim Bob read it for me. And 99 out of 100 Pastor Jim Bobs also didn't read Systematic Theology.
Right. Well, he always makes really good sports analogies, and it makes sense to me.
Yeah. What you should read, if of anything, would be probably Against Heresies by.
That took a while for me to read. Saint Irenaeus.
Yeah, a lot of it really is. You'd be surprised, which I obviously didn't know this growing up until I started diving down Orthodox rabbit hole. Was all those a good portion of the heresies are a lot of Protestant belief systems today, or at least branched off from it. So it's like if you wanted the church has already really dealt with most all these heresies. They're just coming back from lack of. It's more just ignorance from Protestant about anything of church history, but
they're reading the same scriptures and coming to the same incorrect conclusions.
Yeah. And so if you want to be able to, I guess, argue effectively or, deal with stuff that's already been dealt with before, just read a lot of those refutations that he puts out there, because a lot of it applies to your average, evangelical church down the street or like a big mega church. It's all kind of covered in that type of book. So that's a good starter too. It's not super hard to read either.
It gets better after like the first book or two, because the first book or two is just like really long explanations of multiple Gnostic sects beliefs because they're like all about the secret knowledge. She's like, I just talked to them and got their FAQ. So here's 10 pages of what these people believe and 10 pages about what these people believe and these people believe. And you're like, that was the hardest part. That just took me forever to get through because like, oh, like I don't really care, but and then he goes through like all the arguments against them and he refutes them and he has some really good arguments. But that was hard for me to get through personally.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. What are we talking, like 3 pages?
Like 180, something like that.
I've never read 180 pages of anything.
Have you read Narnia? Altogether, that's got to be more than 180 pages.
I would say.
I'm just kidding. I've read some pages. Recently, I finished. I'm glad we're talking about books too, because I'm just like I'm going to tee Austin up to talk about one that he has just. Actually, I'm going to go grab it from the front door, but
on the front door,
waiting for me down there. It's waiting on my front porch. Colin wants you to tell him about the Kandahar Giant, and I'll be back. Okay.
Okay. I mean, well, the high level, I guess, would be is that it's probably circa 2005 or 3. I don't know. It was shortly after the Iraq invasion, after 9/11, everything we're talking about supposedly U.S. soldiers were in an area where there was like a cave system or a cave area in the cliffs of, Iraq. And basically there's a giant, I don't know, between 8 and 10 foot giant that lived there. So it ties down and it came out and killed several of them, but then they end up killing it. And that's how we know about it a little bit. But it's really, it goes down the rabbit hole of the Nephilim type stuff and that type of rabbit hole. So, I mean, we can get as deep as you want on some of that stuff. But yeah, that was.
Is there footage or pictures of this thing?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, if there was, they're not readily available, and it'd be hard today to try and look up.
I have an artist rendition of it.
Yeah, usually it's of a big, giant, redheaded type of of guy with a spear. Usually, because I think that he like lanced through 1 or 2 soldiers or something like that. But yep, there you go. And it's one of the fewer modern stories of Nephilim or giant type stuff. So it's an interesting little read if you want to go down it, but it's more of just testimonial type of accounts now rather than footage or anything like that. But yeah, good point, Colin. Thanks for bringing that up.
Well, we could. It'd be quite the left turn.
Yeah, that's something that you would find probably on like a Zeitgeist type of documentary mentioning that type of stuff. But no, I mean, it's that was kind of, I mean, that ties into a little bit of stuff because before, as Justin was mentioned, we got into Orthodoxy for about, I would say maybe most of our 20s, because I'm 34 now and I started looking into Orthodoxy probably around 31, 32. And there you go. But basically we went, once we kind of, instead of going full black pill, we really went down a just conspiracy rabbit hole of everything, kind of in figuring out, well, there's got to be truth somewhere down there. And I mean, eventually it led to more of the biblical stuff that's not really talked about much, at least in Protestant circles and even in Orthodox modern, but like about, the kind
of like Lord of Spirit stuff.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. All that stuff is really what then it led into the Orthodoxy, but it started with stuff like loose change and 9/11. And then it led to every other rabbit hole down there, flat earth, Agartha, like, inner earth, the moon landing stuff, anything that's on Sam Tripoli tinfoil hat pretty much. And then it led into more biblical stuff about tied to like Nephilim and Lord of Spirits things. And then that's where we kind of eventually led into Orthodoxy, was looking more historical accounts. And then I was reading a little bit about the church fathers that took the non-Augustinian view and stuff of the actual fallen angels, mating with women, the Genesis 6 account, Genesis 6:4, I think is what it is. But yeah.
33 millimeter charcoal discs, quick light.
It's how you know you're holy when you get it by the bulk like that.
Oh yeah. I light a lot of incense. Actually, I've not lit one piece of incense in this home, but that's why. Anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, Austin, but
no, I mean, that was kind of, Colin asked a question about the giant thing, and then that led to, I tied it back into
Christ is King here said, dude, Gnostics, Neoplatonists, Egyptians, and Babylonians, esoteric shit is the same crap. Let me give my elevator speech on that, because when I realized this, it helped me to dispense with a lot of things. When you realize that, just like the many heresies, who said it also? Maybe the same feller here said about Christ is King on fire tonight. It's like demons recycling old IP. It really can always only be recycling. And the same with heresies. The same is true of these shiny, sparkling things that the demonic forces find new ways of branding and like tempting with. Now here's my thesis statement that I have come to believe pretty wholeheartedly, is that the religion of the Antichrist has been present since the fall, and I don't just mean the fall of man, since that temptation of you eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you will be like gods. That is the message of Gnosticism, is that you have to personally be able to gain an intimate knowing of good and evil, and that's what is going to allow you to ascend to the God, to godhood. And meanwhile, God's saying, no, it's going to be trust and obedience and submission to me, and I will make you like me. Not make you like me, like be affectionate toward me, but you will be
not like
you're
my
already being
boyfriend.
you're gonna now we're aiming at the likeness of God.
Yeah.
Right? Or
Well, the main difference on those, usually a Gnostic or any type of New Age, would be apotheosis of man, kind of where it's the deification of man, but without the divine grace of God. It's doing it through your own means, which ties directly back to the fall. Obviously, it's deification without God or His grace, which Orthodoxy, obviously, theosis is about, a path towards we can only do that through the grace of God, and sharing that energy of that,
and joining our wills with His rather than pursuing our own.
It's movement of your will towards the divine will, whereas Gnostic or anything that has an apotheosis type of view is going to be your own inward will, more instead of focused toward God or anything. It would be more of your inner focus, and then you can achieve deity or deification through your own means or practices and things like that. So that's where they distort it. They take similar truths, but then they distort it slightly, and obviously.
And my whole point was going to be that you really are seeing the same patterns in all these movements throughout the ages, but they have new names on them, but they're the same thing. So what is at the heart of Freemasonry? What is at the heart of Theosophy? What is at the heart of Thelema? What is at the heart of Kabbalah? I could keep asking this question and
keep going.
Yeah. Hermeticism, Gnosticism. I don't know if I already said New Age. All of these things are about identifying the true will. And you ever read The Alchemist? It's everybody's favorite book. It's just more of like a parable, nice way of putting it, but it's always tempting you to say, the universe wants me to have my dreams, my will. I just have to find out what my true will is, my true calling. And it's
my truest self, my highest self, my inner voice.
Yes, it's this subtle way of putting you on the throne.
It's a higher frequency.
Exactly, man. So
say that, but slower. Say like that, like half as slow.
You want me to say it half as slow means twice as fast?
No. You know what I mean. Come on,
don't
be. That's the
1.5x.
It's sophistry, man. That's just
sophistry. You're being phallic right now. You're being phallic, just
super phallic,
bro.
And very phallics right now, man.
All come from the evil one and lead you to fall into You guys say prelest or prelist?
I say prelest, but I hear both.
I say prelest is probably prelist.
Okay. So, you ever play a video game let's say Breath of the Wild Zelda, and it has that green circle, like when you run it depletes? What would you call that?
Stamina.
My wife, I love you, might be listening. She calls it stamina, and it always gets me.
Oh, never heard that.
Yeah.
I don't see. There's a dozen words like that. So I'm like, are you saying? Is it doing that on purpose?
Yeah. It's okay though. Wives don't like that. I just told my wife how to pronounce dysentery because I told you she's playing Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
And She felt
You-
sad afterwards, like she thought that I thought she was dumb, and I'm like, no, it's normal to not be able to read the word dysentery. The only reason I know how
Yeah.
to
It's,
Blink
pronounce it is 'cause of
182.
Dysentery Gary, yeah, Blink.
Yeah.
how do you say Blink? What did
Blink
you?
182. Do you say 182 or something like that, or something?
Oh,
weird?
do people?
If
That's
you
no.
did, I'd leave the stream right now.
Yeah.
Oh, but like, you ever try to read? What was when you first tried to read the word quinoa? Like quinoa.
Quinoa, yeah.
No,
I'm assuming too. I'm assuming prelest is actually probably prelest if you think about it, because it's a Greek word. So the e is a soft e. It wouldn't be that way, but I don't know what it actually is.
who's to say, man? You're the Greek one over here.
Where my mother-in-law, my wife's mom, does something similar. Every time she says the words Protestant, it's with a Z. She says Protestant every time, and like she's trying to overcome that and say it correctly. I'm like, no, I can't let you do that. She tried to do the same thing with my daughter. My daughter, every time she tries to get picked up, she says hold you. It's like she comes up to me, she's like, hold you. And my mother was like, no, you're asking, may you pick me? I'm like, no. Let her say it. Let her say
Yeah.
it. I don't care. I
I'll
don't
take
care
that
that.
away.
Yeah, I don't care if she's 4 and still saying it. That's fine.
Yeah.
Can somebody text my wife and tell her to stop texting?
Sure, I
me?
got it. I got you.
Just hit her up real quick.
Yeah.
I don't let my wife read because that can lead to things.
Well,
So
they get these
Right,
ideas in their head.
That's one way they attack the patriarchy.
Mhm.
Mhm. Does it ever make you mad that in the movie Matilda, they got all these little girls thinking that their parents and their authority figures all suck, but they're little magical people, and everyone's jealous of them?
The only
Right,
thing
I
I
mean,
think about is that cake in Matilda. That's what that chocolate cake looks really good. So, but
Well, I feel like if my dad was Danny DeVito, that having magical powers would be a good consolation.
Yeah,
That probably wouldn't be very easy having have a weird little midget goblin, a troll.
the troll
Yeah.
toll.
first thing
Yeah.
I remember seeing him in
Just
was
showed my wife that.
Penguin or the Batman.
Oh yeah. Me too,
Oh,
probably.
sure.
Yeah, or Matilda.
Hey.
Well, it was one of those guys that didn't. You ever like watch a movie from your childhood and you're like, whoa, it's that dude.
yeah.
Yeah, he's special though. I don't want to talk trash.
Well,
on
now
him.
he's just Frank from Always Sunny. It's
Yeah.
permanently in my brain now.
Yeah,
but
no one could do what he did with that role. Let me show you something here.
Yeah, nobody could crawl out of a
Right.
couch naked like that.
This is why I just want to be pure. This is why. Let's do music shout outs while I cut this Amazon bag open.
All right. What do you listen to, Austin?
Yeah, what do you
right
listen to?
now, no.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Blink-182, I'll say it. I think they're one of the better bands of my childhood, growing up through it, and still to today. But I listen to stuff like that, like pop punk or punk. I did listen to, like you were talking about, the kind of teenage when you're phase of going through the punk, like a lot of Rage Against the Machine and things like older. I guess that would be more anti-political and had that stance. So that kind of also during my formative years, I was kind of rebelling out a little bit by like trying to listen to stuff that talked about similar things. But now, I mean, now I listen to a lot more, like a wider range of things, but it's still all in that same vein, I guess, of like either post-hardcore, hardcore,
Right.
punk, whatever you want to label you put on it. But yeah, stuff like that.
You ever listen to Showbread? That's always been one of my favorites.
Showbread,
Yeah.
yeah, Justin, I think you showed me them a few times, a few of the songs
Probably
back
back in like 2009 or something.
Yeah.
I don't think that I tried to listen to. This is going to be maybe mean because I can't play music very well, so I shouldn't say this. But I've already committed. I don't know if they're very good.
I mean,
tried to
they
listen to them.
They were
have
doing
some
a
pretty good,
sports team, but-
pretty good solos.
Okay, I'll give it
I don't-
another try.
I mean, some of their
I-
songs are just like power chordy stuff, whatever. But
They're no
Yeah.
sub 7, Justin, or
I
whatever.
was just
they're not
thinking
like
Sub
crazy
Seven.
technical. But I mean, yeah, if you listen to some of their songs, have really crazy solos. I think.
I liked the lyrics whenever I was in college. I thought this is like very
Yeah.
pull on your heartstrings. Like a real slow one where he's confessing to our Lord about being the slithering reptile betrayer.
Oh yeah, yeah. I walk the world on insect legs. That one.
Yeah. I forgot what it's called, but it was
Around
Age
that
of
ti-
Reptiles. Second album.
around that
That's wrong.
time, I think I got more. I diverged a little bit from Justin on some of that stuff. But he also listened to it too. But I got really big into like August Burns Red and like For Today.
Okay.
And,
Yeah. For Today was crazy, dude. Put on
No
really good shit.
Sleeper, remember that?
I thought, I almost got No Sleeper tattoo, but I thought For Today, like the more albums they put out, the worse they got. Personally, I thought their first.
Dude,
I thought
Ecclesia
their Crown of Thorns was like the last good album I thought, and then the rest was like I've just heard this, but it's not. This is like your old stuff, but not as good.
Yeah, I mean,
feel like you're phoning it in.
I think
Portraits is good.
Was the one. I mean, some of their newer stuff that. I mean, this was 2012 or something, maybe. I don't know, years ago. They had Devastator that they had a few good songs.
Yes,
it was more of like a handful of good songs, whereas the last, like the first few albums were very good. But I don't even know if they're a band anymore. I don't think so. I think Maddie.
For Today, no. Maddie like became like a missionary pastor or something.
He's
like
like
that.
a full-time evangelical pastor, I think, somewhere. So.
What's that guy and what's his band that Sam Cheshire knows all about him?
Tommy Green.
Tommy Green.
Yeah. Sleeping Giant.
Around listening to his.
Oh, yeah.
And then his new band is Holy Name. I saw Sleeping Giant in like 2011 at Cornerstone Festival. And after the show, he baptized like 30 people in a pond.
Efficient. You gotta get those numbers up.
Yeah,
Rookie
like
numbers.
a
You gotta get those numbers up.
type of thing. I mean, it's I'm not even making fun because I know that that's a reality, no matter what tradition or what broad section of Christianity you're from. There's always a place for rapid fire baptisms, and especially in church history. And it's like. Sometimes you have.
Well, like St. John Kronstadt's Confessions, right?
No,
he had so many people. He had so many parishioners in his parish that he didn't have time to do confessions. So it'd just be like, I think during liturgy, everyone would just like shout out their confessions because it was just like packed, like a church packed. He couldn't hear them all.
Yeah, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
Ironically, that's who Father Josiah Trenham. He's coming down to North Carolina area in October, and that's what his talk all day is going to be about. Is something life and something about John Kronstadt. So interesting, at least. But,
Did I tell you? I told Austin. I didn't tell you. I emailed Father Josiah on a whim because I went down the. And chat, go off about this. Has anyone else gone down a long and storied rabbit hole of Rasputin? I needed to get the straight answers. I need to find out whether
is he a holy man of God,
right, or is he a fiend? And I don't think that we necessarily have a smoking gun evidence.
I think that the top of the crescendo, like if this is like. The note being held and like up here is he's a villain, demon, sorcerer man, and down here he's like a saint. Like this is the chill, mellow Isan. He's a saint. It could be like I'm kind of in the middle because the royal family spoke very well of him. They knew him personally. He had there's a miracle where he healed the Tsarevich, little Alexei, Saint Alexei. And there's tons and tons of propaganda about him and rumors. And Saint Elizabeth the New Martyr wrote to the Empress saying, "Don't trust him. Like I've heard all these rumors. You shouldn't be with him." So but she never met him or anything. She was just going based off of what she heard and the scandals and such. But there's also tons of scandals being written about them, and the communist propaganda was real thick, and they wanted to do anything to besmirch these people, especially after they ritualistically murdered all of them. They wanted them to seem like the bad guy. So, was he a holy man of God and a saint and a pilgrim, holy fool? Some people think so. I don't know if I'd go that far. I don't know if I have evidence to say that. I think he was a pilgrim, and there are saints that speak well of him. But he took 1,000 bullets and ran off into the woods and through the rivers, and they pickled his phallus and all those things. That's a little weird to me. I don't know. You heard of that, right? I have a friend who's like into history, and he's like, he's like telling me all these things about Rasputin, and like you can go see his pickled penis still. I'm like,
That's wild.
Yeah, well,
I don't
yeah,
know,
I've
dude.
heard some weird stuff. I mean, like I don't know if it's legends or true or whatever, but like stuff about his age too. Like he like lived for quite a long time and stuff like that, and other different things. But I mean, I really base everything off the movie Anastasia, so that's kind of where I get a lot of
And
my.
that's a fair place to start.
Yeah.
Why would they?
Right,
why would
right.
the DreamWorks
Why would they
family?
lie?
And that's what they are.
Schizobrain. Anastasia is like the opposite mirror of Frozen, because like picture the song of her at the beginning in the snowland, and she's talking about like missing, like where she doesn't feel like she belongs, and she's missing her family and home and all these things, and she feels like she's in the frigid place, and she wants a home and like the hearth and all these things. I can't remember the lyrics, but then you go to Frozen, where she is making a castle of ice and isolating herself, and it's all happy and major chords going on, and it's empowering that she is isolating, and empowering that she's the villain, but it's very much like the same kind of scene, but totally different messages.
Yeah, how far we've fallen, huh?
Can you say pickled Putin penis propaganda?
3 times as fast. Go, Justin.
Penis. Oh shoot! Can I start over?
No, that was it.
I got tongue twisted. Slip and Jimmy. I don't know if I should. Slip and Jimmy, you tell us if you want us to divulge your secret identity. Slip and Jimmy has a secret
Oh, you know him.
Yeah, I do. Anyway. Yeah, the Rasputin thing, it's I've watched a fair bit of like people trying to give me a good solid exposition of the unbiased history, and then if they did say something that may be legend or could be from a biased perspective or propaganda or slander or whatever, they made sure to note it as such. And I've also read a good amount, but what really tripped me up was I read from the like abbot of a monastery in the United States somewhere, like out west, a tract.
Abbot Trifon?
No, I don't think so. I definitely, I would not. No, I'm going to say no. It was somebody from a while back, and somebody whose name I didn't immediately recognize, but I could find it. They seem to be very adamant about the fact that what was the czar's
Nicholas?
No, right, but his wife. What was the royal
Alexandra?
the czars? Alexandria, one or the other. Yeah,
Probably.
Yeah. Well, anyway, again, this is all a disclaimer. I'm just reporting what I read. I don't know if I should believe this or not because it seemed pretty scandalous. It seemed pretty slanderous as well. So
Alexandria Feodorovna.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this person was writing, this like monk or whatever was writing something that was saying basically that Rasputin influenced the royal family negatively by introducing Eastern mysticism and like theosophy and such, and that before the Bolsheviks breached the room and murdered the royal family, she had scrawled certain inscriptions on the wall and had like swastikas wall to wall, and then certain things that were also like couldn't be deciphered, but it seemed that she was seeking protection from things that were within the purview of, again, it's very slanderous, but this person, whoever wrote it and like published it, was saying it as if it was like plain as day. And that
I don't think she'd have time. I mean, for me, I've read the account, and like they're brought into the room and
just the night of or anything. Apparently, she had it there as protection, like spiritually and physically or whatever. And you know what? If it is true, like it's you know, Lord forgive her. It's not the first time. If you were, you know, in like Maccabees or whatever, the men were slaughtered, and then they found charms from pagan gods or whatever on them, and they prayed for them, right? After their so anyway, I read that and I thought, wow, this is like big stuff. But it was him raging against theosophy and him raging against Albert Pike of Freemasonic fame, like the most prominent man in the world of Freemasonry in the last like 200 or 300 years probably. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that was smoking gun stuff. So I was glad to have read it, but I couldn't parse out what was like passed down to him to believe or what things that he independently researched, whoever this author was. but it taught me a lot about Theosophy and Freemasonry, and then a lot about the Russian imperial, like the last days of
Tsar
good
Nicholas.
good old pre-revolution Russia.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
yeah. Anywho, oh, Christ is King is saying, and I'm not disagreeing. Again, I have no stance on all this, but the idea that he was a Kalist or whatever, however that's pronounced, that's up for dispute. So if indeed he was, then it would indicate that Rasputin was part of a sect that held things that are outside of the pure teachings of the church.
Yeah.
And they got into some wacky stuff, but I don't know if it's been proven or shown that he was indeed part of that sect, or if that was just more Bolshevik slander.
Yeah, I never really went down that rabbit hole too much of the Rasputin stuff. I mean, a little bit here and there, but no, I don't know a ton of that.
He said his daughter said it. Wackadoo. All right.
Do you guys think rights exist?
No. I'm big too. Like we were kind of talking pre the show starting. Like I don't think I really had a hard stance on it before about a year ago or so. Before I started listening more to like Andrew Wilson or like Made by Jim Bob. Just they were one of the few that had kind of brought it up in the way that was like direct and kind of refuting the idea of rights and how they get kind of misappropriated by the Christian culture of the West, where they take it on and they actually reaffirm a lot of those classical liberal ideas of all these supposed rights. And then it gets more convoluted because then they try to tie it in with like God-given rights and biblical type of things and all that. But no, I don't believe in rights in as far as being something more than just a societal agreed upon concept type of thing. But yeah.
Do you agree with Andrew Wilson's definition that rights are privileges absent duty?
I think it's a very good definition. I mean, you could probably nitpick it how you want with it. I mean, I think the biggest thing to take away from there is the fact of when people think of rights, it's this thing given without any expectation back.
Right.
So in regards to that, yeah, I would say that's a pretty good summary, but you could get a lot more in-depth and granular with it. But yeah.
Dustin S here in the chat, I believe he can correct me if I don't word it right, but he defines rights as things that the government agrees not to do to you. Essentially, it's not going to harm you in this way. It's not going to violate these certain. It's not going to use force in these certain ways. Essentially, upon the populace.
Yeah, I mean that can be. It depends on what type of rights you're talking about too. Because if you're talking about strictly judicial type of things and things along that line, yeah, they can. But when I think it's evolved or grown past even government related things, but it can be rights you could technically do it within a family, you know what I mean, without any type of government. You just have to have a structure where there is somebody who's going to enforce the ramifications of if you violate quote unquote the rights. So it really has to do with force, which again Andrew Wilson and them always talk about, but I mean it's really hard to refute that kind of thinking with it because you don't really need a government. Like I said, us three could establish rights within a group, and then if one violates them, there would only really be the consequence that they would have to worry about.
And so all we're really saying is what are we going to do if X happens, right? It's not we're not really affording somebody the right to free speech. We're saying that if it happens, then X amount of force will be applied in X way.
With all these different qualifiers, they also tack on as well of what constitutes free speech and things like that. So.
Let me try to broaden this in a way that I haven't heard these voices do so far. I heard the grating, I wouldn't say excruciating, that would be overstating it, but I heard the irritating conversation between Mr. Tim Pool and Andrew Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
No-name females that I don't.
If you're in the woods, then you can say whatever you want. Eat that mushroom.
Yeah, I don't know why he kept going back to the surviving in the woods. Like pick up a stick.
As if the American government won't hold you account, won't enforce things when you're in the woods.
Well, it sounded like he was trying to justify everything through looking that lens of like, well, if no one was around, what do you have the right to be able to do? Type of thing.
That's an ability, right? That's a capability.
Capability equals rights. Your heart can beat, so it has the right to beat.
Yeah.
Right. And it was silly and short-sighted and inconsistent and incomplete as a thought process.
And he had the balls to be like, "Are you just being obtuse right now and not
Yeah.
submitting to what I'm saying? What is wrong with you?"
Yeah, he's like, "You're not getting this, I don't think."
Dude, my
like,
least favorite part is when they would mirror something back to him, because I experienced this so much in college and even like grad school where people are supposed to be smarter than this. But whenever he said something like, "Well, do I have a right to take someone else's freedom? Do I have a right to take someone else's life?" And that's where the rubber meets the road. He's making a point, and they go, "You're asking if you have a right to hurt someone?"
yeah,
Right,
they don't
yeah.
understand.
Wait. Let me see if I get this right. You're asking if you can rape someone, and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you retard.
Well, they don't
That's
understand
the
what an
point.
internal. They don't
Right.
get an internal critique.
They think that you're saying that that's
under-
okay, or that
Yeah.
you're
It's the
promoting
inverse of
that
the
when you're just
odd
saying,
thing that Andrew can't
yeah,
stop talking about for good reason. But yeah, it's always that they already presuppose some emotionally charged like angle at viewing they can't separate themselves out of the thing. They can't look at
Yeah.
it from a bird's eye and see the chessboard as it is. They're on it, getting riled up about something. Wait, Andrew, are you seriously suggesting that it's okay? So I think we talked
Right.
about this last time Colin and I were on, but I had this class back in like 2013 where they were talking about how all morality was socially constructed and mostly due to evolutionary biology. And I was like, well, wait a minute. In the animal kingdom, so we find it universally abhorrent to commit rape. But in the animal kingdom, that's the way of the world, right?
Right.
And instead of someone hearing that freaking laser precision 360 no scope sniper headshot,
you just got to kill tacular, and they're thinking that they think you just fell on your face.
Right. Exactly. They heard it, and this woman was literally like, "If you're comparing rape," and then got all like choked up and left the room. And instead of people being like, "What the hell was her problem?" the professor himself looked at me and was like, "Are you happy with yourself?" And I go, "Oh my god, dude! I was making the perfect point."
Right.
And everyone has turned on me, and I don't.
You
think
just
any
destroyed her epistemic starting point.
Yeah.
Right. But it was just funny, and that's when I first got a taste of this. So that it's just like flashbacks to that when I see someone talking on like a YouTube or Twitter Spaces debate and get like totally lose the plot immediately, and I
Yeah.
can't tell whether they're being intellectually dishonest
Right.
and just
No,
stubborn.
I think people are
that-
blind.
Well, think about it. I mean, really, and I mean, we can get back into like why it's like this, but I mean, Western education, I mean, we have no emphasis on any type of like how to actually think or argument or understand logic. Like there's no philosophy, even in college, it's hard to find kind of courses on it unless you're at a more, I guess, driven or like that's your type of major that you're going into. But I mean, really, there's nothing in there about proper thinking or how to actually create an argument. They think an assertion all the time is an argument, or
Right.
Some of the biggest things too is you see more and more, and it's day to day with anybody. Like, I don't know if it's an IQ type of thing or a problem or not, but they can't do hypotheticals. They can't do
hypotheticals are hypocritical. You know that?
Yeah. And they don't understand speaking in generalities versus, there's always going to be a case out there, especially when you're talking to someone who has a more, I'll say, effeminate view of how they think. Is anytime you say, well, generally speaking, this group of people does this or that, why, the first thing that's out of their mouth, well, I know somebody who is that and
Right.
doesn't do that. It's like, I don't think they're being intentionally malicious with it or trying to poison the well by like acting like they don't understand. It's more of like they just don't understand, or they've never.
Well, it's like they think that they're doing what Justin did with destroying their starting position with a contradiction, being like, "Oh, I know something that contradicts that," but you're saying that's not the same move, because you're saying generally,
yeah,
a high amount of these people do this. Well, somebody not in that high amount. Okay, that doesn't speak against what I just said. That one person, but there's a million people that do it.
Although I will say, when I hear this stuff argued out, I don't know if this is just pure arrogance on my part or if I don't understand debate or what, but sometimes when I'm like, for example, when I'm watching Andrew Wilson interface with Tim Pool, I'm seeing both sides of it. Obviously, I agree with Andrew, and it's so basic. They should have gotten past it so they could actually talk about the real stuff, the stuff that that does stimulate. Like, find out where the rubber meets the road and where the actual questions are, but they couldn't get off the starting block because of their little nitpicky thing that Tim couldn't understand, like basic, argumentation or whatever. But I don't know why this happens so often, but when I watch something like that interaction, there's a clear approach to that I think would settle it, that would make Tim understand, like a very simple sequence of phrases that I think would make him go, oh, I see what you're saying. And it's like Andrew's refusing to do it because he enjoys drawing out the bullshit. Right?
I always
I think simple, like he was being a little squirrely. Like he would switch when they're talking about, like, he wasn't allowing him to be pinned down and just talking about it. Like they're talking about rights. He's like, oh, you're not talking about rights there. You're talking about government protections. It's like, okay, you just relabeled the same thing. So you can try to say it's not talking about rights. It's about government protections, but that you just keep like dodging when I'm trying to talk about the thing. Like whichever way you want to call it, that's what I'm critiquing. And you're saying it's not critiquing rights. It's government protections.
Well, and I think guys like Jay Dyer and Andrew Wilson, a lot of times, I don't know how much they're doing this kind of intentionally for like drawing out certain things or what they're trying to set up, but I think they give too much credit to the people that they bring on or talk to and stuff, when even like full in debates, not just like call-in shows, like I think they give too much credit that they understand even the basics to start grasping the concept that they're going over. So really you see it with a lot of them, you have to break it down in like the simplest, like you're talking to a child, either through analogies or to make sure that they follow along the way. Because somewhere they have some assumption of what this means or what that word is, and then they miss the whole reason behind it. Like you were saying about the rights and the government protections.
Right. Or they might be using the word concept fallacy, thinking that, I'm saying when I say the word faith, I mean the Protestant faith alone kind of thing,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's helpful when Jay or somebody is like, well, your epistemic basis for asserting this or that premise, blah, 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 blah. He's assuming that they're going to be able to follow that. And
they don't know what epistemic means.
If you just said, hey, dude, why, like, just stop, look within, ask yourself what the most basic fundamental level of evidence you have for that statement, that axiom that you just tossed out there. I want you to ask yourself why you believe that with 100% confidence, as if it is self-evident. Or when they use the word ontological, instead of saying the word ontological, because a lot of people just didn't get a 101 level course where that word was defined for them, instead say, you are making a statement about the immutable characteristics of reality in this.
Well, Andrew said that a little bit. He's like, does it exist outside of my head? Is it just a concept in my head that we all came together and decided on, or does it exist out there? I mean, he's asking the ontological question there.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you're asking about rights, I think one of the things that was left out of the conversation that shouldn't have been, and maybe I just haven't watched as much YouTube as I could have to be caught up on the broader conversation about human rights and things like that. But when you talk about when the founders said that there are certain inalienable rights given by God, it actually is pretty ingenious, and it suggests something that we haven't zeroed in on here, which is if we keep saying, well, rights don't exist because the government can trample on them at any time, but the founders say that even if they trample on them, number one, it is incumbent upon you, the citizen, to fight back because you have the entitlement to do so with a clean conscience, because then you are preserving what God has given you, meaning that you can morally fight back against someone who is seeking to deprive it of you, even if they have an institutional authority. And for the government, it's maybe in a different world. In the colonial times, it would have been a warning, a curse upon them, saying that if you deprive your citizenry of this, you may get away with it. You may be bloodthirsty tyrants, but you will be held to account at some point at the great judgment or whatever. If that was presumed, then it would have been an effective argumentation. And then you have to go into the realm of philosophy and theology to back it up. So a right could exist if you can prove that God views one person as justified and blameless and another person as accountable to judgment. Then a right exists within that framework. So, for example, if I say I have a right to life, then it doesn't mean that no one can take it from me. Someone could come up and shoot me at the head at any point. That doesn't mean I don't have that right. What it means is that person who shoots me in the head, when the scales are rebalanced, cosmically, that person will be held to account, and my blood will cry out from the ground against my brother Cain, and that's where the right lies, and that's what we don't talk about. But if we talk about everything, if we presume a secular basis for our worldview, which I think is a mistake in the first place, then yes, granted, there's no such thing as rights. However,
right. That's only if you're like, okay, we can't prove rights exist. Let's just assume they do, and now let's system build on top of that. That's all it really is. So these things are happening, and I think you could really, it might even be better to call them like incentives. Like you talked about, like, oh, the government says like the founding fathers are basically saying if you violate our precepts like this, you'll be accursed, and you'll have these things fall upon the land and all that. And they talked about how absolute democracy was terrible, and it was this mob rule and all those things, so that they had certain things they wanted to be avoided. So I think maybe it could just be better boiled down to incentives, like government incentives, what they think would lead to more prosperous materially within the lands. But this is like the right stuff is just a post hoc way of us to like, oh, he took his right of life away by killing him. It's like, well, he just killed him, and now you just like said some philosophy stuff on top of it.
Well, and a lot of it isn't even incentive too. A lot of it's the opposite of an incentive. Like, if you do this thing, X will happen. So, I mean, there's incentive from, okay, I won't do this thing. Like, I won't kill someone because if I do, that X will happen. But there's also the inverse can be applied with where a lot of that goes to. And then the whole thing that they missed, though, from that secular framework is what I was trying to say earlier was they take it from a classical liberal, and then they also take from biblical or like a God basis for it. But then they do no justification when they can't justify why they have these rights. And then when it becomes infringed upon by the government in some way that they just end up disagreeing with for whatever arbitrary reason, they can't do the work of justification of, okay, if you believe it's supposed to be true this way, why are we supposed to believe that that's true other than you feel that way? And that's the biggest thing with the average person doesn't take it to that step, that prior step before, to the meta level of, why am I justified in saying that this is the true way it should be? And nobody really, the average person definitely doesn't think in that way. They just go off that presumption, like you said, of, well, rights exist, let's just grant that to ourselves. Right. And then it ends up, they try to change it to whatever arbitrary thing fits their view of what a right should be anyway. So it's,
and I don't think you can prove it through natural, what did you say earlier? The Catholics believe in natural
theology.
Yeah, natural
theology. You definitely can't. It's not self-evident for all, or else every single person there wouldn't be a fracture in people's. There wouldn't be an argument. But
right, I don't think there'd be like differences across the cultures, really. Right. If we all like could just look at it and see for what it is, and it's self-evident.
And that's why tag requires divine revelation from it.
Right.
If at some point in history lived in a truly Christian society where the outliers were the ones who didn't have a basis of faith or didn't believe that, whatever, then you would have an easy basis for rights. You'd have to flesh it out. You'd have to like put words to it. You'd have to kind of draw a line from the scriptures to the rights, but it would be a solid line. I think it would be a syllogism that's pretty airtight. For example, you hear Jesus say, "Suffer the little children to come unto me," and you see Jesus say that for those who hinder that, it would be better for them to have never been born. It would be better for them to be tossed into the sea with a great millstone tied around their neck. You see that invocation of you see the Lord saying that this is clearly like not where you want to be, and this is where I only speak what I hear the Father saying.
Wait, Justin, do you clearly see what he's saying? Because the biggest problem lies in with how you interpret what's written down. Because what you just said, like when he says "suffer the little children," you or anybody could read it one way if it means this, the other doesn't. So without a normative body to actually interpret that, then. Yeah,
I understand that issue. What my thing is, I'm on the same page with you, from the perspective of the authority of the church to wield and be the torchbearer of the Holy Scriptures. Like they are immutable, inerrant truth, but they're not self-evidently objective, like plain reading, whatever. However, I don't believe that means that none of the Scriptures have a common, more or less plain reading that's accessible to somebody who picks up a Zondervan Bible at Barnes and
Like, I think people
I do
can
think
pick it up
so.
and
when
by happenstance, like, get the plain reading of it. That would agree with the church, but like,
come to the
like, it's as almost as probable, especially with a lot of scriptures based off like their order of theology with all their
Right.
big words and such, that they end up missing the mark on interpretations or
this
have
is what
part
me
of
and
it
Joe-
right. And,
But just zero in on him. If you say that if you can agree that Jesus existed in history, and that at least he was a true prophet of God, which I can't even believe I'm saying that, but that's the basis. You
so
don't even
Arians
need
have a
to-
correct
to full scale. Even Arians would read it and say, well, okay, Jesus is speaking on behalf of God the Creator, God the Father, God the ultimate arbiter of truth. And he says that if a person prevents one of these little ones from coming to me, then it is better for him to, and then the most horrid thing that you can think of.
Mhm.
There's no way out of that from a person with half a brain. Oh, it's pissing me right off, man. Nadim, he just made it on my list.
like, you remember when what's his name, Mad Mari or whatever his name is, the Aryan dude, the Assyrian
Manuel?
Mari. When you remember when he was say he was almost assassinated. I try to think. There was a priest. I can't remember. Roots of Orthodoxy, something like that. I can't remember. Father Michael said that. Of course, we don't want anyone to be murdered, and I'm not. This isn't an ecumenist thing, but I'm saying to the Muslims that want to kill Christians, they'll kill an Arian just as much as they'll kill a Protestant, a Roman Catholic, or an Orthodox because they look at them all as Christian. So, like,
yeah, that's what's
all of these people that are heterodox would be under the threat of martyrdom
Yeah.
because
Which doesn't
they
make
look at
any
them
sense.
like that.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense for that Abrahamic Faith Center thing too that the
Right.
Catholics are putting together, because I mean there's so many contradictions or things with it. But yeah, that's a big point right there of like Catholics are saying they're all worshiping the same God. Muslims certainly don't, at least at least the average one you talk to. I don't know about the higher ups of who's in control of that faith center thing, but they will not espouse that we worship the same God or
Right.
by any means. So
yeah,
but-
the enemy of my enemy is not always my friend. It's the concept doesn't always universally apply
Mhm.
in a way that will lead you to make prudent,
Yeah.
discerning, judgment calls about whatever. So it's just.
Yeah.
But all I was saying was that it's evident if a person will just agree to the so-called plain reading, and I think in this case, like, it stands up. I'm not going to nitpick or whatever. That Jesus said, "This is it is a right for the child to come to me, because a person who hinders it is now accursed in a serious way on account of God's judgment. Like God Himself, the judgment of God Himself stands against this. Or when something's pronounced against Cain because of the murder of his brother, it is implicit that Abel had a right to live and serve and make sacrifice to God and live a longer life. To me, that seems like, yeah, there is a basis for the existence of rights that transcends all of our argumentation and all of our theologizing and philosophizing on a human level. You can't just, all you need is that one thing. Just give me that. Just agree that the God of Jacob and
the one thing I would say that maybe will get lost in confusion when talking to somebody anyways is, I mean, that echoes about what's allowed and what's not allowed, or what you can do without having a repercussion and what you won't. I was reading, which it might tie into anything Justin was talking about with the book later, is Unseen Warfare. They talk about a lot of things in it, which we can talk about at some point here. But the biggest thing they do talk about is really, one of the biggest things I've taken away from it is really when you talk about rights, and when people are talking about rights, they talk about what can't be infringed upon. Now, we keep talking about things that will have consequences, but they're truly the only thing that God has given us all one ultimate right that actually can't be infringed upon by anyone else, or human or supernatural, other than your own will, is your will and what direction you put your will towards. So that can never be changed or infringed upon because.
Well, I mean, I would even push against that. I mean, like babies that are aborted are having their will infringed upon. But I would say getting maybe I'm causing a train wreck, but I would say what you're going for, the only thing that somebody couldn't take away or infringe upon is that we will stand before the dread judgment seat, that we will be judged. I mean, that's the only thing I think that somebody a villain couldn't take away from somebody.
Well,
they can take away your life.
That's not really taking any away from somebody. That's maybe the one consequence they can't avoid no matter what they do. But them standing in front of Christ for judgment, yeah, it would be an effect of what they maybe did to you or several other people. But in terms of what you personally have as a human, we'll say, to make it even more simple without going too complex, about human with cognitive abilities, let's put it that way, because when you're talking about
Justin, you don't have to listen for this for
you can step off now, but but really when it's talking about as an individual that does have the capability of thinking, at least of comprehension and things like that, really the only thing that no one could take away is your direction of where your will is put towards. So for example, they can imprison you for anything they want. And the saints talk about this too, about it leads into the inner prayer of the heart and all that type of stuff, which get way into the weeds. But where you put your will and where you direct it towards, either that of God or of not God, basically, is where, if the easiest way to understand it is, if your will is always towards something of God's, there's nothing that anybody or any force could take that away from you. Whereas your life, your ability to breathe, eat, all these things that get convoluted with these right things, it's really a moot point when it comes down to, if we're talking about things that can and can't be taken away from a person, I guess would be where, and it gets a lot deeper than that, but on a high surface level, that's what I know.
What do you think about the philosopher, the great Matthew Thiessen, who said, "It's my life and my right to use it like I should."
He would for the good.
Yeah,
of everything that I would ever know.
Yeah, I mean,
wow. You just invoked the crown jewel of the Protestant Reformation, so I'm not sure if I can really refute you.
Yeah, they're the great Protestant thinkers. Luther, Calvin, Thiessen.
We were talking about Homer and other poets and stuff. Those were the truth of it. So.
Josh Dice, truly the scholar of our time.
Who's that?
That's the lead singer of Showbread.
Yeah, I remember the interview he did where he was talking about his cats. You remember that from like the early aughts? He did an interview at some I don't know. Anyway, we don't have to go tread that ground again.
You ever listen to Emery?
Back in the day. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I like them a lot.
Maybe this is a good palate cleanser. Who else was big that we've kind of forgotten about?
I mean, Emery would be like with the Under Oath and Silverstein.
May.
I mean, there's Alexis on Fire, a bunch of those type of things. What I think of with Emery.
I'm thinking of but they weren't the Christian boys, were they?
Emery, Emery, Under Oath.
Fire.
Alexis on Fire. No,
Devil Wears Prada.
So long. Yeah, Devil Wears Prada. Which when we're talking about America, I'm sorry, children, little ears. I'm gonna say. Well, I won't actually say it. Well, last time I saw Devil Wears Prada, right before they played Danger Wildman, he just like out of nowhere was like F Trump, and he gave a big middle finger.
Oh, I was
like, what? Dude. Oh, what?
That's so cringe too, because even the big name bands that still do have like a massive following bring their aura down like a good 10 points when they're like, if you ever, so where we live, we're close, where Austin and I are from, he didn't live up here no more, but we're like an hour drive from DC. And if you go to a show in or around DC, they'll be like, it'll be Blink 182 and they'll play a couple songs or Angels and Airwaves or whatever, and then take a break, go drink some water, all sweating. And it's like, all right, this next one, I think you guys know. And if you like this one, I want you to sing along so loud that mother over at Pennsylvania Avenue can hear you tonight. And it's so freaking cringe, dude. That'd be like, and then you get like a half-hearted, like 40% of the crowd be like, and the rest of everyone's like,
Have you seen the tribute to George Floyd and his family?
I wish.
Yeah.
Is that behind a paywall?
Can you send me that link
it's
after?
Yeah, I can play it for you guys right now if I can pull it up.
Yeah, let's do that.
David Guetta.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's glorious, whatever it is. That's the only thing I know about him.
David Guetta, I mean, he's no duck sauce, but he's all right.
He's bagel.
This record is in honor of George Floyd,
I have seen this.
and I really hope we can see more unity and more peace when already things are so difficult. So, shout out to his family.
I have seen that. Yep. I didn't know that was
it
David
real?
Guetta.
Like, he
I
did
hope
it
so.
with
I don't want to look into it because I want it to be real.
It's
Oh,
real, I
really?
believe.
Damn it.
I remember.
I
seeing
believe,
that.
yeah. Just like what Dustin S said earlier. Should have started. It was good. Nope, further back. Oh no, it's even further back. I lost it. He basically said, "I will do the good American thing and just believe based off my preference, and forget the evidence."
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I mean that's the way to go. So.
That's good
Oh
stuff.
yeah, right here. I'm gonna do the properly American thing, avoid all evidence, and judge completely on my personal bias.
Yeah, that was back in the Rasputin conversation. Because I don't know what I want to believe about that. Well, let me just, so I don't forget, I'm just ticking things off. This is the book that I said that Austin was like hawking so hard. Oh, there's his copy. And
Was it Hawk Twoing? So no, sorry, I shouldn't. Referring to our God-bearing fathers, I apologize.
But it's okay because this book, incidentally, the Hawk Tua girl had really excellent points to make about this on her recent.
Did you send that?
episode of-
Did you send a copy to her? I'd love to get her take.
You know, she already gave her take. This was like yesterday's big news. I mean, she
I have
was
a
Oh, wow.
signed copy by her. So
yeah, she was making big points. She was basically saying that Saint Theophan the Recluse was stating things in such a similar way as to certain of his predecessors, but with verbiage that was more readily accessible to the people of his time, the very recent modern world. And when she said that, I was like, yes, thank you for finding the words that
Right,
I'm the, you know, I'm just nothing but a mush mouth. I can't
She speaks to the
put together-
people, right? I
she
mean,
speaks to the people in a way that like I can't even.
Christ is King got it right. She's the next Chrysostom.
right.
The golden mouth they call her.
Yeah.
I need a. What, hey, Justin, I need whatever you're drinking right now.
I'm. I haven't had a drink in 14 years.
Oh,
That's
All
why,
right.
why do I just lie when I get? Why do I just tell lies?
I don't
You
know.
ever have
You ever
that,
do?
Paul?
I when I lie, it's usually just like it's like I watch myself do it. Like just the other day, I met a dude and I was talking to we were talking about like old jobs we had. And I used to be like I used to work for Budweiser, and I was like 18. I would ride shotgun and help do all the deliveries and stuff. And out of nowhere, he's like, "Do you have a CDL?" I was like, "Yes." I don't have a CDL. I was like, and then I was like, "Why did I say that? Why did I say that? I'm now too far gone, too far in there."
Austin and I knew a guy in middle school that
Van Helsing.
lied. Yeah. We're already thinking about the same guy. I think that he has since been reformed in good ways. I really hope so. But back in the early like 2003, the people in our small little private Protestant Christian school class knew that he was a compulsive liar, but no one would like call him out on it. And instead of calling him out on it, we'd like get in the locker room and set him up. And he's the only person in the room that doesn't know what's going on. And one was the movie Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman has yet to come out. We kind of rolled the dice on whether he knew that it hadn't come out yet or not. And we were in the boys' locker room like, yo, did you see Van Helsing? And then it's like, yeah, it was so tight. And then we're like, dude, did you see it? And we ask him point blank. He's like, oh, hell yes, I did. And we're like, what was your favorite part? And he's like, dude, the whole thing was so good. And we're like, did you like when he jumped off the like big pipe organ and, like, killed that vampire? And he's like, dude, yes, that was like my favorite part. And everyone's like standing in a circle, like I don't know, telepathically.
Did you guys unveil it?
I don't think
Was
so.
it just for you?
We just did that like 8 more times until the school year was up.
Yeah, I think he transferred schools and we never really saw him again. Literally, I think that's what happened. But
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between like that, like whenever, as soon as I said yes, and it was like I was at war with myself. I knew it was like a sin. I shouldn't have done that. It wasn't. I had nothing to gain. It could only hurt me by telling that lie. Like now, this guy thinks I'm a liar or whatever. Like there's nothing, no motivation. It's just an impulse or whatever.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between that and like this is an example I usually use. Like I remember like in 2010, I was listening to like podcasts and stuff, and I'd like hear something interesting, and I'd be talking to people like, you know, at church or whatever, and I'd bring it up. I'm like, oh, where do you know that? I'm like, oh, my friends and I were talking about it. That's not true, but I don't want to act like, oh, what's a podcast? And so like, I think there's like you can generalize. I'll do that like, or like, I think also like people aren't privy to all the information. Like you don't have to know that I'm bringing this topic up, but you don't have to know it was like something to do with a family situation, or so I can just like depersonalize it and say like a guy I know or whatever.
Mhm.
So I don't think that's like the same motivation of
14 years ago, this guy I know went to the third heaven in body
Oh,
or out
wow.
of body. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. So, you know, by example, maybe there is a time and place for that type of.
I mean, what do you guys think? Am I off there? I think that's
I agree.
Yeah, this guy I know, the one that the Lord loved.
right.
and
I was
the one
listening to a
that he
podcast.
Really loved. He was reclining at the table with the Lord, and he said, so this is another example. So what am I saying? Am I saying that you can twist things up in your narrative a little bit?
Bend reality a little.
Maybe. I don't,
Maybe.
maybe it is not
Yeah.
the spoon that's bending, but you yourself.
Hmm.
Did that ever occur to you?
I think
You ever
I
think
think
that?
that there is a spoon, but I don't think there's rights. So I'm not really sure where that leaves us.
That's fair.
We'd have to ask Yuri Geller. I think that was the guy's name, right?
That was
Spoon
the
Man.
drummer for MXPX.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
right. John Foreman was the lead singer. And it was a really good group, I thought.
Mm-hmm. That is correct. Can I tell one more story that Austin knows that is just another? So I hope that you got that special cringe where you thought, wow, maybe Austin and Just really aren't all that cool of guys because of what we did to that liar in the 7th grade. Like that really wasn't a very honorable move, but I'm just confessing it's the way that we played it. Another one, fast forward in college, this one where our hands are clean. We just heard this one secondhand. But some of our friends had an apartment, and this guy that lived with them, at least for a time, was also a compulsive liar. And I think, sadly, he probably struggled with bipolar, and he would steal things. And he was also a very like musically talented and a good-looking guy.
If you dropped a box of matchsticks, he knew the exact number on the ground. Like he could look at it and be like, "What?"
I don't
wow.
know if that's true, but basically, this guy was very erratic behavior, and you couldn't catch him in a lie because he'd immediately spin up another lie or something. And he kind of had the same thing that Andy Bernard had in The Office when he's all like high energy, but if you catch him at the wrong moment or you press him too far, he punches a hole in the wall. Well, this guy was acting erratically and like stole a couple like NFL tickets and then wouldn't admit to it. And you didn't know why and whatever. And he would do all these things and have these like crazy mood swings. And so his roommates got together to like talk about the problem. I'm not going to use his first name. I want to. I'll have to say Craig. His name was not Craig, but they're like, and they went into their bedroom and they're like, dude, I think Craig is a little bit crazy, and I think he stole those tickets and lied to us, and I'm kind of scared, and we need to do something about it. And then another one would say like, yeah, I think we need to talk to him, and he's really starting to piss me off, actually. Like, honestly, it's kind of annoying. Like, I could live with it to a point, but like, I can't like live like this, and we got to talk to him because, and they kind of like got a little gossipy about it, whatever. But they said it in confidence. They said it privately. They wanted to save face for him and be gracious and kind. So they left the room. And they go to like around the corner to his room. Well, his door's open. He's not in there. They're like, I thought he was here. They turn around. He's coming out of the room, the bedroom that they were just in. Tears in his eyes. He was under the bed the whole time. He hid under the bed to listen to them talk about it. Got his feelings hurt. It's like nightmare scenario. I can't. Anyway, we heard it, and me and Austin.
Yeah.
We were I think we just.
You should have just.
Back. I'm like, it's now. I think I've maybe grown a heart because to me, it's more sad than it is funny, but it's still a little bit funny.
I can attest that that's a true story, but we did hear it secondhand from the people talking in the room. So we weren't in the room, but yeah.
No, we weren't there. That's why I said.
Oh, okay.
Team, but should I laugh at something like that? No. I wish this guy the best. I think that he has evened out. I think
he got himself a mood ring.
Yeah, there's a recurring theme of that too, because a few years later in Pittsburgh, Justin's old place, his friend from work was also in a precarious situation where I said something about him that wasn't the nicest thing. But
I'll just tell the story because you're skirting around it. They came to visit me when I lived in Pittsburgh, and I had this little loft area, and this guy like came over and hang out with us, and he was like also crazy and like socially inept a little bit and kind of put a damper on the whole night. Well, everyone stayed up and we woke up the next morning and the first words out of Austin's mouth was, "Hey, is that Pillhead still here?" And I'm like, he's up in the loft, it's totally open. I know for a fact that he heard him say it, but then he had to come downstairs like 10 minutes later and pretend like he didn't hear it. So yeah, there is a theme. It's like that. It's like the finale of Seinfeld when they're hearing all the people say like what terrible people they've been over the years when they're testifying in court. I don't know if you saw that episode.
I've seen the soup Nazi thing from Seinfeld, and Kramer is at like a fundraising marathon thing, and they want to give him a pin, and he doesn't want it. Those are the two scenes I've seen from Seinfeld.
Yeah, that
wait,
was
no,
funny.
is that Seinfeld?
Puerto Rico Day. That's Seinfeld.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I wonder what happened to Michael Richards, the guy who played Kramer. I mean, he was like on an incredible run. Like he was at the top of his game.
I mean, I haven't seen Little Richard in anything for years, it feels like.
He was one of the first cancels, wasn't he?
Oh, was he?
Hmm. Oh, you might not know the story. Michael Richards had a heckler who was an African American, and
he's one of my boys. He's one of my brothers.
Lost his cool on stage and said the gamer word a few times.
What's the gamer word?
What do you mean, Justin? What do you?
Vegeta?
Chat. What's the gamer
word? Chat. Save him.
Is it
chat? I can't seem to remember what the gamer word is. Can the chat help us out?
You ever like see those videos of like a voice message set in like 2007 on Halo 3 Xbox Live? Somebody still had it and they like recorded it, uploaded it. Oh, you can still you can still find them. It's pretty funny. Just like it'll be like a little squeaker boy using all the profanity. I'm not gonna play it.
That was the Wild West days when Xbox Live and all that first came out, and everything was allowed.
It's all supposed to be like the dew of the morning. Just you can say whatever profanity you want, and then go to school, and it was left behind, never to be seen again. But some of it's still there.
I'm sure it was good that for race relations at school, if you kind of use that pressure valve and you get it out of your system, like you said before you went to school or in the evening. You go to school and you've kind of cleansed yourself of those deep.
You were purified. If you wanted to spend time with your white friends, you could play Halo or Call of Duty. If you wanted to spend time with your black or Mexican friends, you could play Gears of War. I mean, what was it?
FIFA.
Oh yeah, FIFA.
Very good. Mm-hmm. Well, let me just say about this book, because eventually we're going to have to call it quits, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to say that the reason why this book came up is because I had, and this will be the big bomb we can talk about if you're okay with it. I had a thought at work at the office, and I almost jumped out of my skin because I get a little kooky, like I start glitching out if I think about things into self-referential of a mindset. If I think about thinking, or I try to peer into my own soul, like see where
the doors of perception.
Yeah, if I try to do that, and especially if I'm under like a high stress set of circumstances in life or whatever, it's not good news. Like I get extremely uncomfortable and like
sense of like dislocation.
yeah, I get weird, and it's not good. But I've kind of learned about that over the last like 7 years because I don't know. I just put myself through the ringer, like in
That's a
ways
good movie.
that only by the grace of God have I been preserved from like even worsening, spiraling mental illness or whatever. But I'm okay. I promise. It's on me now. That's another awesome reference. We had a guy. We had a friend named Medard Lefevre, but they called him, what's his name?
Trey.
Trey. Yeah, they called him Trey Lefevre, and for no reason he started laughing maniacally like the Joker and saying, "It's on me now," and it scared us. Thought he was going to shoot us all. Anyway, the point here that I'm getting at is I had one of those thoughts that made me uncomfortable again, but it may have been an edifying step in the way of enlightenment. But I didn't want to tinker with it too much, and so I called Austin and I'm like, "What do you think about this? Am I crazy for like pondering these things, or is this at all from your point of view? Like, is there anything to this?" And the thought was, I was reading Father Stephen DeYoung talk about theophanies in the Old Testament, and specifically the what's it called, the blank of Abraham, the
bosom of Abraham,
Hospitality.
hospitality of Abraham.
The hospitality of Abraham, and how according to Father Stephen,
DeYoung.
Abraham dined with God in a visible way, but it was not the incarnate Christ, obviously, but it was pre-incarnate, and it was a manifestation that was at least capable of like sitting and eating with him,
Had
or
some
become
form.
in
Yeah.
some way. But he was making a case that it was, something that could be seen by Abraham. And then in that account, that God in some instances appeared to be conversing with himself, not just with the other, with the two angels that were there as well, but talking to himself. And he said that shouldn't be a surprise, because the Lord Jesus in the Gospels, as he prays to the Father, in some ways is also conversing with himself. I'm not trying to say anything undue or heretical, so just don't nitpick the words, because I recognize that there is distinction between the three persons of the Godhead, and the Trinity.
Mhm.
I recognize that, but in another sense, if you will allow me to say so, when the Son prays to the Father, it is God conversing with himself. Right? We all tracking?
It's yeah.
Once I thought of that, even though there's all kinds of caveats, and you could go down the Trinitarian theological like parsing out of what that means or how it works. That's all fine. You can listen to Jay Dyer for that. But suffice it to say that God communes within and among and unto himself in a way. And my very first thought upon reading that was, well, isn't that what I do as a human person? When I have a thought, I'm both producing the thought and hearing it. And then whenever I think the next thought, I'm responding to that thought. And then I realized that our logos, our reason, is the thing that can be seen. You can see your thoughts in your mind's eye, but they are begotten of something that you cannot perceive. The nous. They are begotten of your rationality itself, the fountainhead of thought. That's the stuff that used to really mess me up. If you watch like Westworld or something, and the synths are asking themselves, like, where do our thoughts come from? Some say it's the voice of the God. I think that is missing components of the truth that really like bind it together and make it like ultimately true. But in a limited way, it is true. Our thoughts are the voice of God, insofar as our rationality was bestowed upon us, and in that sense, we're made in the image of God. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, what if we're made in the image of the Trinity, and somehow within us there's our higher
Triune.
nous,
There's
and then there's our rationality and the logos, the word,
There's a
right? And then somehow there's our spirit, which is a third thing. And that's when the conversation broke down, because we started to tinker with ideas of like, how does our body, to close this session, we will lick our pineal gland for a minute. Exactly.
Well, yeah, and
what do you think about it?
well, on that, a couple things I guess too is so when you're talking about talking to God, I believe a lot of if you go down the Cappadocian theology and all that type of stuff, they do share a divine mind. But they have three distinct persons, and so but Christ, when he became incarnate, took on a fully human mind and he still had access, obviously, to the divine mind. He never lost that and wasn't cut off from it. So in a way, your analogy of thinking to yourself could apply there. The difference, though, with human thoughts would be, I think Christ is King or somebody put it in there, talking about like logismoi, where that like which thoughts are even your own, and are any of our thoughts our own, and is the only way to decipher from it, though, running it through the filter, quote unquote, of your news through, is it God's will or not type of thing. But yeah, the Trinity discussion part of it can get a little bit more complicated because of the divine nature versus like a human nature. Whereas, yeah, we've got aspects of Trinitarian, like of the triune imprint on the human, but it's not going to map over 1-to-1 exactly with a lot of things, if not anything. But
right. I mean, that's like I don't know if you guys saw like the recent Charlie Kirk thing with him taking on a bunch of like crazy liberal stuff, but I think he's like a Protestant or something like that, but he definitely didn't.
Who
like
is
Charlie Kirk? He's some conservative dude. I don't know too much about him.
Turning Point USA.
Yeah,
he
not
did
Charlie
all
Kirk.
that.
Yeah.
But he was debating these people, and this one guy was arguing in favor of the Troon stuff, and he kept bringing up like, "Oh, God's the Father. Does that mean God the Father has a penis?" And then Charlie Kirk was like floundering and like, "Well, no." It's like he couldn't. It's like it didn't seem like he had the precision of theology to be able to be like, well, you know, we are made in the likeness in the image, but we have different natures, and it's not 100% analogous between, you know, the divine nature and the human nature. He was like, you just need to say like that kind of thing to like push back on it, but he didn't really. He really floundered. But I also think like with this like this talking to yourself or like the communication within. I mean, there's lots of things in like secular world with, you know, the what is it, the ego, the super ego, and the id or whatever. Like there's different models that are tripartite like that. And there's something I was looking at recently with King Pill brought it up, where there's certain like people that have like epilepsy, something like that, where there's a thing in your brain that connects your left and the right hemispheres together, and they cut it because that helps them with the epilepsy or the seizures, whatever it is. And that normally you live a normal life, but there's certain things where it changes you, and like because your left and right brain can't really talk to each other now. So like, let's say you try to grab something. I try to grab this jar with my left hand, but my right arm, without my volition, smacks the other arm away and it says, don't do that. Or like if they close one eye, like the left brain, sees out of this eye, right? And it can like see words and stuff and be able to read it. But then they close the other eye and it saw the words and it like wasn't able to discern, wasn't able to make sense of things, but it could hold on to like more conceptual things. Like I'd see a picture of a dog or like it have an emotion. So it was like the scientists were looking at that and trying to explain it, having, you know, that hypothesis about it with your left and right brains are almost like different personalities in and of themselves. Like it's like two different persons within you that normally communicate, but when the communication's set off, it's like the left brain has the mouth and can say stuff and the right brain is silent and communicates in other ways. So I don't know exactly where that fits in, but so apparently some of the neuroscience suggests that there is some, and I experience that all the time. Like with whenever I have a problem or like I'm doing some creative work or working on whatever ideas, or even just like playing piano recently, like I just have to like put it down and like I just have to go walk. I don't know what it is about walking, but if I walk for an hour, take a shower, just wake up in the morning, it's like boom, like it's the amount of work that can happen with my subconscious working on it is like 5 hours of conscious effort sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing with Justin that what you were talking about with the triune nature of man and stuff, it is a distinction that Orthodoxy has more so than Western thought, or like definitely Augustinian type of thought, where a lot of the West kind of views, they'll say that the human, what makes up a human is mostly they focus on the body, the physical, and then they'll do the mind or intellect. They'll kind of have a concept of a soul or whatnot, but it's usually tied to more of an intellect type of view of it. Whereas Orthodoxy is more of triune, where I have body, mind, and then nous or the heart, whichever church father you read, they pretty much use those interchangeable when it came to what it actually meant. But that is more so lacking on Western thought. So the nous heart part is, especially Unseen Warfare talks a lot about it, is obviously through the fall and depravity and everything of when it comes to the fallen nature, not, the Calvinist version of depravity. But what our news was darkened, and really through theosis and through growing closer to God and directing your will, changing it more so from your intellect, putting it towards the heart or the nous, which by doing that, you're giving up of your own will and your own desires and lining them with God. A lot of that is not present more so on the Western side of things. And that's why they became so scholastic with trying to define everything from an intellectual viewpoint versus, again, being okay with paradoxes and mysteries type of thing. But that's where I think a big distinction. And I think Mr. Westford was talking about this earlier too, where you start your theology from. And I mean, anybody who's listened to J. Dye or anything like that, Orthodoxy all starts with Trinitarian theology. And from there is where you get all the more, I don't want to say less important, but all the other branches of theology where it goes. If you start with proper Trinitarian theology, it's a lot of these pitfalls you can avoid, but other ones like Catholics or whatnot, they will start with whatever branch they're trying to figure out and then make it fit with everything, or make everything else fit with it. And that's why you have so many of these, some are apparent, some not so apparent contradictions. And it lessens certain part of that triune aspect, such as the Filioque, where over time, I don't know if they knew this at the beginning or not, or what it would lead to, but it devalued the Holy Spirit in terms of the Trinity. And then it also took away the Father's hypostatic property of being the source and attributed that also to Christ. So it throws everything out of whack if you don't keep the correct theology to start from the Trinitarian view, at least. But that ties in, I believe, to what you're saying.
No doubt. No doubt.
No doubt. Yeah, I agree.
No doubt.
No doubt for me. Yeah. It's a no doubt for me, Alex.
Yeah, that's going to be a no doubt for me. I was going to say that it's in line with what we were talking about, the pursuit of knowledge being a tempting and subtle replacement for the pursuit of God, with a recognition of God's infinite mystery. Because when people say, "Oh, all I got to do is nail it down, systematize it, and then I'll be able to, operate within those parameters," and that's already a mistake. So when you were saying the scholastic proclivities of the West for many centuries, it makes sense that they would inevitably get something out of order, because all of reality teeters on a paradox, like at the heart of things. And this is what Austin and I were talking about on the phone yesterday, and it got pretty rad. But when St. Paul says, when he, same thing I alluded to earlier, when he said he went to a man that he knew 14 years prior had gone to the third heaven, and he had heard things that is not lawful.
That was your cousin, right?
Huh?
That was your cousin, right?
Right.
Your kissing cousin?
Yeah. I think it was.
There's that kid that saw Van Helsing too. He went there.
Yeah. He also went there. But that he heard things that were not lawful for man to utter, and it's like, at first, for a large part of my life, I would read that and be like, come on, dude, you can tell us. And then I'm like, no, dude, don't tell us, because that might be the thing that, if you were able to utter it, would unmake me. That would fulfill my fears of being disintegrated, like on a soul level. And when you mentioned the doors of perception earlier, it's always that temptation. It's curiosity killed the cat. It's curiosity led Aleister Crowley into the abyss to try to confront Charon's Zone, the Guardian, to get to the other side, or that led Aldous Huxley to take a bunch of freaking what's that drug called, ketamine or whatever,
LSD.
killed the other K one, or maybe it was ketamine. I don't know how long ketamine's been around, but whenever these people say, "Oh, I know it, I can just feel it, I'm getting transmissions from out there in the ether," something wants me to know the mysteries of the universe, but they're being led into this trap where they, or even let's take the New Age or whatever. Well, if you if somehow decalcify the pineal gland and you look within and you align your chakras and whatever 10 other things, it's like, yeah, all those things might be true, but you are tinkering with the freaking program files, and you're about to drag my computer on your desktop into the recycling bin. Don't do that. Trust me. Yeah. Don't ever take my computer and drag it into the recycling bin, or else.
Well, did you read that section I sent you from that one book? I think it's Daniel This book here,
Daniel
but
Day-Lewis. We already talked
it's
about
the
it.
Higher Martyr Priest. He talks a lot about in there. There's aspects in it about the creation of man and all that, but it goes into. I'm not even sure which church father he was quoting, but about I think there's 8 contemplations of man that like progress through. I need to find it in here, but basically 4 of them have already occurred in history or in this in the timeline. The other 4 have to do with future events that like you're supposed to contemplate the day of last judgment and stuff. Not too much, obviously, because a lot of that can lead to it, but you're supposed to contemplate about different things. And I think they categorized it into 8 different categories, similar to like the virtues and the passions. But it talks a lot about there is a good time for contemplation of these things because one, it brings your recollection and your mind back to focusing on God's will and what you should be doing in preparation for those things. But it does teeter along that line of too much contemplation on some of those, especially paradoxical or mystery type things can lead to downfalls in one way, shape, or form. So, especially before we found Orthodoxy, I think that's where a lot of people head towards that black pill type of thing if they go down the conspiracy route and stuff, where they start contemplating too much about what is the truth and what's not. And if you don't find that proper lens of Orthodoxy, you can get to that nihilistic point of view. But yeah.
Austin, the chat really wants to know, when are you going to start your own channel? You're getting
Right.
so much
Yeah.
love.
Everyone's clamoring. Everyone's clamoring
and saying how, in comparison to me specifically, not so much our host, in comparison to me in particular, you really know your stuff.
Well, I would say for now, I'd probably just stick with guest appearances on things. I mean, this is actually the first stream I've ever been on or anything like that. And recently I got rid of social media to try that out for a while. So it's probably not the best time.
Flip phone? Did you go flip phone?
No, I didn't go flip phone on it. But yeah, I did kind of try to eliminate so that, and it's more just to see kind of how the effects of it will be and everything, especially as reading more about praxis theology and actually putting into practice a lot of the stuff that we're supposed to. I just kind of am trying that for a little bit. So probably now would not be the best time to try to launch my streaming career or anything like that. But no, I mean, I like discussing this stuff. It's hard to find people to actually even talk about this stuff. That's why I'm always calling Justin, because there's not many people that even want to go this route, which is part of the problem too, is, there is no more public discourse. There is no more deep, or not even deep. There's no real conversations that are had. Like, I mean, when somebody introduces themselves to you at a party or dinner, the same conversation happens all the time. Like, what do you do? Or what this? It's all surface level stuff that I get really bored with after a while. So, but yeah, it's kind of where that's at.
That's the man. Let's hear it for the boy.
One-handed claps, everybody.
Wes, can I ask you forgiveness for something? Because I do this
Sure.
compulsive thing. I recognize it. I'm not totally unself-aware. I do this thing where when I'm on your channel, I'm like, I say things where it appears that I'm trying to host the show, and it's your show.
I mean, I'm here. I'm along for the ride for this one.
I just, it just gets on. I'm getting on my own. I'm starting to piss myself off. So I'm like, let's hear it for Austin, everybody. And with that, it looks like we've run out of time. If I were me, I'd kick my own ass, and I am me. So you know what's going to happen after this.
Do you guys have anything before we close down shop? You guys have anything you want to say?
I think we covered most of the.
Yeah, I think we solved the American issue. I think really.
Yeah, I don't. Things should be changing after this going forward, I would think. So keep an eye out. So.
Once the world hears this one. Mm-hmm. We're like those 12-year-olds in the meme. They're like sitting around the couch and they're all leaning forward and talking. And the title of the video is always something different. Like, it's like, fellas, is it gay to like girls or whatever? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
The meme format.
Yeah.
That's all I had to say.
That's okay. We got this weird. You guys see this weird Spurg in the chat?
Who's that?
This truth is DA troll, whatever his name is.
What's he spurging about? He just got.
He just showed up out of nowhere and was like, "You guys are all gay if you don't let me on." I have him here in the back room. I mean,
he makes a good point with that. So
he's right here. I could press one button. He'd show right in and be able to say whatever he wanted to say.
How I don't see any of those.
He
Hold
needs
on.
to introduce
Yes,
me to
do
the
it.
internet. I think he said he wants to
Yeah.
introduce me to the internet. So, yeah, I'm
Post
fine
the
with that.
link.
You want him to come on?
Straight-
I thought it'd be really funny to just let him in the back room and then in the stream. Personally, I thought it'd be the funniest move.
That is kind of funny, but I
good
don't
with that.
see the messages of him.
You don't see it?
Oh,
It's like a
wait,
football guy
wait.
with the jersey number 2.
Yeah, but I don't see.
I don't even know what he's about. He didn't like say anything substantive. He just like showed up and then started saying a bunch of racist stuff, and I don't know, dude.
Well, so far, no complaints on that. Like, no objection.
Oh,
He's
okay.
He's a truthist
Okay.
with the capital T. I
But
saw
where
that
is a
one.
message saying "Let me on this stream, or else you're all gay"? I don't see that.
I was paraphrasing. He was calling. I was paraphrasing.
Post the link.
I think you got to go back to like 8:30 ish.
All right, people are saying. I thought it'd be funny to just troll, but I mean, what do you guys, my lovely guests, yay or nay? Do we let the rando on? I
Well,
don't. I
it's
literally have no
Justin's
idea what it's
show.
on about.
It's Justin.
Yeah, Justin.
show,
Justin,
right?
do you let him on? I don't know why you gave me the controls, Justin. This is your show.
All right, let him on, dude. What's up, Solo? Are you?
How you
Solo,
doing,
the
man?
thing is-
Good evening. How are y'all doing?
Doing
Good.
well. How are you? Oh, wait, are you the guy that had the Oh my gosh, you had Yoda on your PFP before, right?
I don't
That's him,
think
dude?
so. I
you
do
sound
have
like
Star Wars stuff, but I don't recall having Yoda.
I could have sworn I saw you with Yoda like on DPH or something.
It's not impossible,
Harris.
but I usually don't pick Yoda. But yeah, I'm into Star Wars.
I got you. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing magnificent. How are y'all doing?
Doing wonderful.
So, as an Orthodox person, when someone calls you brother, how do you feel?
I feel affirmed in my identity personally, as a black man. I mean, it just, especially if it's a black brother telling me. I mean, I just feel I don't think it's a sin to feel good about that.
Well, I am your brother, and I'm black as well. I'm
Ah.
way blacker than you, Oreo.
Are you talking to Austin or Justin? I
I'm
don't.
talking to
You're kind of like
Mr.
switching. You're kind of like switching in the middle of the sentence. Kind of weird, hard for me to follow.
I'm following.
I was
That's
born black. Were you born black like
intimidated
me?
Yeah, I was born black, but to two white parents, so it's a really
Yeah,
weird situation.
both my parents was white too, so we got something
Yeah.
in common.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I mean, I haven't really met a lot of people, a lot of folks like us. I mean, the black community at large, it's kind of hard to, relate to them because they don't have as much struggle as people like us do. Like I always say, back growing up in the South in Tennessee, like I had a couple black friends. One guy named Jordan. Anyways, we were like in science class, and evolution got brought up, and there's these country guys in camo, and they'd look at my friend Jordan and call him like monkey. See, if we do that, evolution must have happened because look at that monkey right there. And I'd be silent, and they'd look at me, and I'm like, "You gonna call me a monkey?" Like, no. Why would we call? And I'm so like that's and then me and Jordan like, afterwards he'd be freaking out like they called me a monkey. I'm like, yeah, but they didn't call me a monkey. Can you imagine how that makes me feel? Like
Well,
you
yes,
got
yes,
it,
yes.
been hard for you.
but
Are you-
like,
you're
where's
mad-
mine?
you're
Why don't
mad
I get it?
They didn't call you a monkey.
Yeah. Like that people
Yeah.
talk about the effects of racism, but when you have to watch your friends experience racism and you're left out, like no black person I know that I've talked to about this can relate to that. And that,
All right, so
it's really a
little bit
pain unto its
painful,
own.
dude. You're ahead of the curve, dude. I was like, I thought I was ahead of the curve, but like you got me on that one.
Yeah, it's rough life out here, man. Like being the blackest person I ever met is not easy. It's welcome to being a role model.
Well, you might just be. I thought I was way blacker than you, but once you put it like that, you might be a little bit blacker than me, maybe.
Well, all right. Solo, I do got to go. I got to spend time with my family and have some dinner. Is there anything you want to let the people know about the struggles of being a black man in America?
The more truth you tell, the harder it gets.
My
But-
nigga in Christ, I never heard it put better.
Amen.
Amen. All right, well,
Deserving-
But the greater the rewards in heaven shall be.
I
I read
agree.
that somewhere.
yeah, my cousin I think wrote that somewhere.
Solo,
Well-
are we getting the face reveal on the next stream?
No, dude. Not on this channel. I have different channels where I show my face, but this
Oh, okay.
conglomerate channels, I don't generally show my face. Sometimes I do if people push the issue, And just to prove a point, I will. But I don't think y'all really have the evilness to take it to that point.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think.
I don't
so,
want to.
'cause I've seen it happen with a man who went down, in history and taught us all a valuable lesson, Mr. Clayton Bixby, when his compatriot said, "Show us your face. We want to see your face."
Yeah.
I don't think I know this.
Oh,
It was circa 2003, probably.
yeah, it might have been.
Was it the same guy who was like, "I want to shake your hand"? Was it that dude?
No, it was.
Sounds similar.
If we're going mask off, so to speak,
He was visually impaired.
He was visually impaired. It was the Dave Chappelle sketch. Where
I've seen that. Yeah. He's a black man who's blind. He thinks he's white.
Racist.
Yeah.
He was an inspiration to the Klan, but no one had seen him without his cloak and hood. And then they begged for him to.
Yeah. Okay, I know you're talking about.
And he did.
Y'all are cool, man. Y'all are youngsters, but I'm in the struggle. I've been black for a long time.
Yeah.
Practically your whole life, I'm
teach you
guessing.
something, Mr. Westford.
Yo, what's up, man?
You gotta chill and reside in the truth and allow the truth. Every struggle you face will make you stronger.
What is the truth?
The truth is that the creator of all things,
Who's that, though? Just want to be clear.
that's the source of all life. And it's
source.
basically the most powerful things that there are is the 10 Commandments. And you have to struggle through the 10 Commandments to realize yourself, to realize exactly who you are. I mean, I'm talking a little bit next level, but the 10 Commandments are the most powerful thing.
Yeah.
You have
What do
to
you think
deal
about
with
Hebrew roots? What do you think about Hebrew roots?
that, quote unquote Hebrew roots, like black people that claim that.
Like the black Israelites type of thing, where Jesus and the
Black
Bible-
people are actual Israelites.
Yeah.
That's like a brainwashing branch of fucking retards, dude. Like if we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, I agree.
100%. Those people are wild, dude.
Can I just take a moment to? I think the three of you will agree with me on this. To just say, how grateful I am, and just for this ability to stream with you guys, and just take this moment to thank God or the universe or whatever you want to call it. That's it. That was the whole bit.
Amen, my brother.
Amen. I can't say it better than that. And I don't think anybody can say what we're trying to say better than this. So, I'm pressing the wrong buttons all together. Here we go.
This record is in honor of George Floyd, and I really hope we can see more unity and more peace when already things are so difficult. So, shout out to his family.